everybody. Can you hear me all right? All good? Sounds good. Thank you for inviting me here, folks. Thank you to Frank Rasmussen and to Peter Johansson for putting this gig on and for inviting me to come and talk here. It's a great pleasure to be here. Never been to Denmark before, so it's good to come and see. As you heard, my website is thecrowhouse.com. I've got a wealth of information there, folks. The site's been going since probably 2007, 2008. I've got literally hundreds of hours of radio shows up there. I've got 6 films that I've made. There's over 1,000 pages on the website now. It's all for free. There's no advertising. There's nothing to buy. It's all there for you guys. So make of it what you can and spread the information to as many people as you can. It's important that we do. So the name of today's talk is Reclaiming the Earth, Steps Towards a Collective Awakening. That's what we need, folks, a collective awakening. It's very difficult to get these days in this programmed society, but that's what we need. Now this is us, the Earth. It's a beautiful place, it really is. By the way, these slideshows are incidental, folks. I just put them up there to kind of illustrate what I say. If I deviate from the slideshow, well, that's just the way it goes. I never really know where I'm going with these talks. I can plan the one talk, but it comes out different in every place that I go. So this is us. It's a beautiful place. It really is a wonderful place. I love looking at these pictures of our planet. It's a beautiful place. But we're doing things to it that aren't really the best. We're turning it into somewhere that we don't really want to be. And we have to do something about it. It's really getting out of control. This is Fukushima, of course. And it's just happening everywhere. So a lot of people think in this current mindset that we've got of spirituality and the New Age movement and we're all one and all this sort of stuff, a lot of people believe we can meditate our way out of this. If we just focus on what's good and ignore the bad, everything's going to change. We're all going to ascend to 5th dimension. All this sort of stuff. There's a new world waiting for us just on the horizon. Like this picture. This picture is actually called the Flammarion. It's a picture that was painted by a Jesuit monk, which apparently depicts the place that the monk found where the sky and the earth meet. And he went home to the church and he drew this picture to show them. I think that people who believe that we're going to ascend to 5th dimension and get out of this by meditation probably believe this guy actually found the place where the sky meets the earth. So I think we're in for a reality check, folks. I don't think that's going to happen at all, you know. We do literally create our reality. We create the reality by our emotional input and by what we do, but it's a test. This picture is called Wisdom's Dare. It's done by a very good friend of mine called Adam Scott Miller. And as you can see, the way he's depicted it in the picture, we do literally create our reality, but it's wisdom's dare. It's wisdom's dare. That's really what life is daring us to do. It's daring us to be wise. That's what I think anyway. That's what I get a lot of stuff from Adam's pictures, and that's what I believe. It's daring us to be wise. What sort of world do we want? We want this sort of a world, or do we want this sort of a world? This sort of a world, or this sort of a world? That's Gaza Strip, actually, and I'll get back to that in a little while. This is the sort of world I'd like. This is actually my world. This is Australia. I like to show a few pictures of Australia just to let you know what you're missing. But it's a beautiful place, folks. This is where I live. This is Tweed Valley. This is a beautiful place. It's actually just over the hill from where I live. Yeah, where I live is just as good as that. It's a beautiful place. That's Australia. This is up in my backyard. Some trees in the backyard. Beautiful place. And these are my people. The Aboriginal people of Australia are the people that I consider to be my people. The Numbal people of Western Australia in particular, who adopted me into their tribe in 2011. And they're a beautiful people, the original people of the country. And what they're suffering is really parallel by what's going on in Gaza Strip right now. What's going on in Gaza is ethnic cleansing. And that's what's been happening to the Numbal people as well, to the Australian Aboriginal people, is ethnic cleansing. Just been taken out over a very long period of time. But they're beautiful people. This is a friend of mine, Carrie-Anne Cox. My dream is for all people to become one with all living beings. The thing is that we are one with all living beings, but we forgot. That's the problem, we forgot. The animals remember though. The animals still know that we're all one. That isn't photoshopped either, folks. That's a real picture. That's an amazing picture. So how does it happen, folks? Well, we get indoctrinated into this system from a very early age. They get creative minds, they take them to school and they train them to be clones. That's how it all happens. And the education system is designed to keep people stupid. That's what it's done over the last 20 years. It doesn't teach people life skills anymore. It teaches people how to function in a machine. There's suggestion in Australian schools that we don't even need to teach children to read and write anymore. We don't need to teach them to write. because they've got typewriters. They don't need to learn handwriting anymore. This is how bad it's become. They're digitising all of our information, putting it all onto a computer. They're burning books because we don't need them. They take up too much space. So they're creating this whole fictional reality, and they're dumbing people down to a massive degree. That's how they do it. And they go out into the society, and they get trained by the television. And the television tells them everything that they believe is true. It doesn't even teach people what to believe. It teaches people that this is what you do believe, and people go along with it. The people believe what the media tells them they believe. And that's the world that we've got, unfortunately. That's why it's so difficult to wake people up. And they believe all of this stuff, folks, that they're fed all the time. They eat what they're told, they do what they're told, and they get a distorted view of reality because of it. And that's what we're dealing with. And the three things that keep us in this state are three things that I call pathogens. There are three major pathogens that affect our lives. One of them is the economic pathogen. We believe that money is real. We believe that everything has an economic value. Everything we do for money. We put an economic value on our lives. We put an economic value on our friendships. We put an economic value on our status. We believe that we are what we own. This is the next pathogen that infects us, I believe, the social pathogen. We spend our lives collecting money, and then we use that to buy stuff, and we judge ourselves by the stuff that we've got. We measure ourselves according to which rung on the social ladder we've managed to achieve. But it's all fiction. And we judge ourselves and we judge other people by these parameters, either economically or socially. Where are you economically and where are you socially? And I believe this is pathogenic thinking. It really is pathological thinking. So the economic pathogen locks us into this state where we believe money is real, everything is about money. We even believe time is money. If you want me to do something for you, you have to pay me. And it also removes from us our ability to give. I believe we're very giving creatures. We like to give to each other, we like to do things for each other. But we're put into a state, excuse me, of scarcity where we're not able to give to each other because we have to put a dollar value on our time. It creates a terrible schism in human consciousness and removes us from ourselves very effectively. The third pathogen used to control us is, of course, the religious pathogen. I apologise for anybody here who may have strong religious beliefs, but I think religion is pathological thinking. I think that all religion has its seed in division, because all religion will teach you that you must respect the other religions, but you're the one who's got it right. Okay, you're the one that's going to go to heaven. All these guys are good and we must be tolerant, but you're the one that's going to heaven. All religions do this. It's at their core. This is divisionism, it's supremacism, right at the very seed of all religious thinking. I have a great relationship with God. I just don't let any religion get in the way. And all these things, these religious pathogens, the economic pathogen and the social pathogen, cause us to live our lives like this, in a little bubble. We've got our own little reality, and that's all we really care about. And the same with a lot of spiritual self-help groups. The New Age movement, it's all about the self, improving the self, this for the self, that for the self. But what people forget is that there's only one self. We're all part of the self. And you're never going to improve the self if you ignore the plight of other people. We're all in this together. It's a mirror. It really is, and I'll get to that a little bit later as well. But it keeps us divided. And for people who don't go into these three forms of pathology, these three pathogens, the economic pathogen, the social pathogen, or the religious pathogen, then we've got the New Age movement, which is right there to scoop up all the remnants and lock them into this New Age bubble, where again they teach them it's all about the self. And effectively it locks people into a bubble of spiritual narcissism, where they believe that everything out there is duality, it's all external, it doesn't matter, I've just got to focus on the good and that's going to change things. Unfortunately, this is the way people end up. They end up completely frustrated. They don't realise that it's all inside them, all the energy is inside them, but the trick is you've got to apply it to the outside world. You've got to apply all these spiritual understandings to the world that you live in. And we're in this 3D reality here. Could be there's a reason for it, folks. Could be that we're actually supposed to participate in the world. Just a clue there. You're born, you're alive. Just a clue. Maybe you're supposed to participate. But we don't. So what happens is we get led down this road. We leave school and we get caught into the credit trap. We get taught that it's all about money, it's all about social status, and we take off down the economic highway. And that's the way we spend our lives. We go into massive amounts of debt to get all of this stuff that we believe makes us who we are, when really it doesn't. All it does is distract you from who you are. You judge yourself by all these external trappings which aren't really you, and it leads you down that highway. You end up with debt and bills. That's what your life is. You're constantly struggling to get above this debt. You drag this debt around with you for the rest of your life, and then you pretend to enjoy it. This guy's having a great time. Look at him. He's just so happy. He's got his football, his team's winning, he's got his TV, he's got his remote, he's got his beer and chips. He doesn't even notice he's chained to a wall of debt, you know. And that's his life. That's our social system. That's what we've got. That's called society, folks. Enjoy. And really what it is, folks, is a system of people farming. That's what it is. It's people farming via debt slavery. That's what we've got in our system, and the sooner people become aware of it, the better. The thing is, people do become aware of it, but then they don't know what to do about it. They just think, well, here I am, what do I do? That's the main problem. And the problem is that the people who run the system, they just make money out of thin air, folks. They've got an unlimited supply of money. Think about that, having an unlimited supply of money. Everything we try to do, we start campaigns, we do advertising, we do whatever. These guys can beat you 1 billion to 1. Every dollar you spend, they can beat you 1 billion to 1, and they can do it every minute of every day. An unlimited supply of money. With that unlimited supply of money, they bought all the governments, they bought the banking system, they bought the media, they bought up all the resources, they just bought everything. And that's the way it goes. And we've all got these national debts in our country. Who do we owe the debt to? These guys. It's incredible. We just keep doing it, we keep going through. So that's what we're up against. We're up against an unlimited supply of money, folks. And it works because we think it's real. And the private issuance of currency is one of the main problems that we've got. Okay, money is something that people take for granted. They just don't think about it. It's something that we use every day, but we just don't think about it. It just comes from somewhere. We don't really know where. We just go to the bank and get it. We take out a loan and we've got to pay it back. And there's all sorts of rabbit holes that have been provided for people to explain this, such as fractional reserve banking and this and that. You know, everyone heard here about fractional reserve banking? We all know about that. Even that is a rabbit hole, folks. It isn't that banks can lend out 10 times more than what they've got. It's that banks don't actually lend you anything. No one ever borrowed anything from a bank. No bank lent 1 cent to anybody. Even the government, they create bonds, they create a piece of paper, they write on it, they take it to the bank, and the bank says, thank you for the bond, now you can use our paper, which is worth the same as the bond you gave us. Why doesn't the government just use the bond? They go and use the paper from the bank. And the same thing happens when you go to take out a loan. You go into a bank and you take out a loan for $50,000. The bank doesn't loan you $50,000. It takes the promissory note that you created, launders it into their possession, and then it gives you its paper to use. So all you're using is paper, the paper they gave you. They didn't lend you any money. You created the money yourself. And they believe that, they trick you into believing that you borrowed it, and then they launder it all back into their possession. So everything you create, they launder into their possession. And that's a real clue there, because what this system harvests from you is not your wealth, it's you. It's you yourself. It's your time, your energy, everything you do, walking between these lines, being constrained by these systems, paying to be alive, all of this stuff, it's you yourself that is the harvest here. The most important resource on the planet is people and attention, the attention of people. That's what it is. All the resources we harvest out of the earth are all for people. They're all for us. It's all us. We are the source of energy for this system. You see, it's not really the paper, it's the energy. And this is where we end up, folks. They get as much money as they want, and this is what we get as a result of them controlling the money system. You can, of course, ask the government for a hand if you want. The government will give you a handout. They will help you if you ask them, but it's not always the help that you're looking for. That's the problem with governments. They just don't give you the help that you want, but they will give you help. This lady got some help. She got help with a student loan. Worked out very well for her. Borrowed $26,000, paid back $32,000, still owe $45,000. That's called getting an education, folks. What are you getting an education in is the question. But that's government help. That's how they do it. That's what they help you with. Wonderful, wonderful people, aren't they? And of course, we can't tell the children, can't tell the kids. They're too busy texting on their mobile phones while they walk into the meat grinder. And this, as a result, is the current state of human consciousness. It's also the current state of the freedoms on this planet, I think. I think this is about where we are at the moment, folks. We're hanging on by our fingertips. Fortunately, a lot of people are waking up to the fact that we're hanging on by our fingertips. Fortunately, there's more and more corrupt governments coming into being, which is making it more and more obvious for the people. Like in Australia, we've got this guy called Tony Abbott. Anybody here heard of Tony Abbott? This Prime Minister in Australia, he's like the worst thing that's ever happened to the world. This guy has some sort of genetic mutation, I tell you. I don't know where they got this guy from. But really, he's the best thing that ever happened to Australia because he's the worst thing that ever happened to Australia. And he's waking up more people than I ever could. That's the thing, the more they do, the more they wake up. They're trying to lock us down, but really, they're just waking us up. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We create reality ourselves. We created this whole mess, and we can create a new reality anytime we want. And the more they try to lock us down, the more they wake up. They can't win. We keep shifting the goalposts. We're just too creative for them. But that's about the current state of us, and I think we need to pay attention to that. Got to start thinking outside of the box, folks. So we've got to do, which box? This box. We have to think outside of the box, folks. Now, we know the world is controlled. We know it's puppeteered by this oligarchy that controls things from the top. A very small group of banking families basically control things. It all started from the Unum Sanctum Trust that was put forth by the Vatican in 1302. That created the current system that we've got. And this current system created the Crown Corporation and all of the stuff down the line from that. It all started in 1302. Pope Boniface VIII, I think he was. Dante condemned him to the depths of hell as being the most evil man ever born for the Unum Sanctum Trust that he created. The Unum Sanctum Trust basically said, well, no one else has claimed the earth, so I think we'll do it. So the Vatican basically claimed the earth. Then about 100 years later, they created a new trust which piggybacked off the first trust, which was called the Romanus Pontifex Trust, which is what created the Crown Corporation. Then they created the Attorney Regis Trust about 50 years later. And the Attorney Regis Trust created the registration of birth certificates and all this sort of stuff. And then the last trust was called Convocation, where the church actually claimed everybody's soul because it figured they weren't using them, no one had claimed them back. So that's what they use, and they say because of these three trusts, that's how they control the world. From the three trusts comes the three-tiered papal tiara, which also represents the three city-states that Ole was talking about before, the three city-states of Vatican, London and District of Columbia. It's all related to the same thing, and that's what created this whole puppet system. An important thing the Crown Corporation did when it was formed was it created the pirates. You know, the pirates that we hear about. You didn't just become a pirate, folks. You can't just go and say, I'm going to be a pirate today. I'm going to go and get a ship, and I'm going to get a crew, and I'm going to go out and sail around the world and pillage, rape and plunder. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of money to do this sort of stuff. All of these organisations were financed by the Crown, and their main purpose was to go out and to find native cultures and traditional cultures and decimate them. Get rid of all the shaman, get rid of all the shamanistic traditions. Even here in Europe with the Dark Ages and the burning of the Wiccans and the pagans and all this sort of stuff, these were basically the shaman of Europe who had a lot of the ancient knowledge. And one of the things these people used to do was look through the society and look through the children in the society and find the psychopaths and weed them out. Make sure they never got into positions of power. Once we lost our shamanistic traditions, the psychopaths started rising to positions of power. And that's the problem that we've got now. That's why it's so difficult for us to vote people in, vote people out, because what we're dealing with is basically a psychopathic system. And when you have a psychopath who is in control of a country or in control of a government, in control of any organisation, then the morality of that government, system or organisation becomes the morality of the psychopath becomes the morality of the organisation by which people are forced to operate in. That's why we have such a sociopathic and psychopathic society. We have a society where people will get discarded because they don't have enough physical wealth. We have a society where people will come and throw you out of your home because you haven't paid your mortgage. They'll feel terrible about it. They'll go home and they'll cry and think, oh my God, that poor family I threw out today, I feel so bad that they're going to freeze to death, but there was nothing I could do because it says here the books aren't balanced. This is pathological thinking. And that's a form of depopulation. That's a form of ethnic cleansing in itself. So that's how they do it. One of the major plans of the elite, if we want to call them that, I kind of call them the bottom dwellers, but these guys who control the money system, their plan is to remove all of the useless eaters, and they're doing it through various methods. Depopulation takes many, many forms, folks, and one of it is the social system. This economic model is designed for depopulation. In fact, the economic model is designed to destroy the earth. Because if you're constantly caring about numbers on a screen and constantly interested in balancing the books over human life, and you're prepared to discard human life to do it, and if you've got a system that is based in permanent growth, whereby the numbers have got to keep building, got to keep turning over, we've got to keep harvesting resources and making things that break so that we can keep harvesting resources and keep the system turning over, basically we're just turning the world into rubbish and we're discarding more and more people along the way. And that is the only result of this system. This system, this economic model, will end up destroying the entire planet, or destroying this planet's ability to support human life anyway. When we talk about destroying the planet, really that's what we're doing. We're not destroying the planet. The planet will be fine. The planet will recover from anything we do, but we won't. What we're doing is destroying our own habitat is what we're doing. And we need to pay attention to that. But we know the system's puppeteered, folks. We know it's all there. It's what to do about it. So this is one of the main ways they do it. And Ollie touched on this before as well with problem, reaction, solution. Hegelian dialectic is what it's actually called. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Create a thesis, wait for the reaction, and that becomes the new synthesis, which is what you wanted to create to begin with, which becomes a new thesis, and then you can keep doing it. This is how they've created the police state. How do you create a police state? Well, you need lots of laws, you need lots of police. How do you do this? You create lots of crime. That's the way you do it. And all we need to do to create lots of crime is make it look like there's lots of crime on the books. And that's the way they do it. So how do you do it? Okay, well, we've got these laws here. We'll just make it illegal to walk on the grass. We'll make it illegal to walk your dog on the beach. We'll make it illegal to do all this everyday stuff that people do. And then suddenly people are being fined for everyday activities. And then the government comes out and the media comes out and goes, oh my God, look at the crime figures. The crime figures in Denmark are just astronomical this year. And you go out, you're looking around going, I'm not seeing a lot of crime. I'm not seeing a lot of crime on the streets. I'm not getting robbed. What's going on? Where's all the crime? But gee, it says in the paper there's all this crime. So of course, we need more police. We need more laws to deal with the crime. But every new law you create a new crime. That's what a law is. It's the creation of a new crime. Think about it. Crimes are created because laws are created. With Obamacare that just came in America last year or something, and Obama announced the creation of 40,000 new laws to go with Obamacare. Okay, this is the creation of 40,000 new crimes. And now when people start breaking these laws, oh my God, the crime figures are astronomical, we need more laws, we need more police. Suddenly we've got a police state and nobody really did anything wrong. And that's what we've got, and that's how they do it. Hegelian dialectic, they've been doing it all the time, folks. Problem, reaction, solution. 9/11 is a perfect example. And if anybody thinks Arabs carried out 9/11, no one here thinks Arabs carried out 9/11, do they? No, I didn't think so, not in this crowd. Good to see, good to see. But they play us off against each other, folks. Play off good and evil as keeping it good and bad and good and evil and all these terrorist organisations and making us think that evil is evil. But really, I think evil's necessary. Evil's necessary. Evil isn't separated from good. We all have a dark side. And I think the dark side has to be there. I was talking to someone earlier in an interview and I said, evil is necessary to be in the world because evil provides us with the opportunity to do good. It provides us with the opportunity not to be evil. But if you didn't have that choice there, what would it be about? What would the whole experience be about? If you didn't have the opportunity to go wrong, how would you ever choose to go right? So how would you ever grow? You know, it's what we do with it. It's what we do with the information. Evil has to be there, but it's what we do with evil. Do we use it as a tool, something that we can grow by, or do we indulge ourselves in it? That's the question, you know. It has to be there. It's what we do with it. I believe we can bring it together. And if we bring evil together and face it, if we embrace these two things and realise that they're all in all of us, and we embrace it and look at what it can teach us, then there's the clue. There's the clue to it all. Marry it all together, folks. Bring it all together. That's the key. That's the key. That is the key, actually. So the beginning is near, folks. The beginning is near if we can do this, if we can wake up to ourselves and realise the opportunity that all these problems are presenting us with. Because that's what it is. I firmly believe that every problem we have through life, every problem we have with our society is an opportunity for us to fix the problem. It just depends on the perspective we look at the problem from. There's too many people that are looking at all these rabbit holes and pointing the finger. I don't think we need to point the finger at anybody but ourselves. Understand that it's wisdom's dare, that it's daring us to be wise, and that we have the opportunity to change everything if we can discover ourselves. That loss of self is a major part of it, folks. It's a major part of it. Also, policing ourselves. I'm glad I put these up here because it keeps me on track, otherwise I go off on these tangents. But we police ourselves. We don't say what we mean. We don't say what we feel. I think that political correctness is a form of tyranny. Policing your own thoughts is a form of tyranny. thinking that there are famous people who are going to fix things, thinking that this guy's a guru, he's going to offer me the solution, he's going to heal me, this organisation's going to heal it, something's going to do it that's external to myself. It's a cop-out. It's an absolute cop-out. We need to not be politically correct in what we say, and we need to understand our own greatness. It isn't that great people do great things, it's that ordinary people don't believe they are capable of doing great things, but they are. Now, all the people up there who we perceive to be doing great things are just ordinary people, just like us. There are no celebrities, there are no gurus. You are the guru, you are the celebrity. You know, we're all in this together, all equal. We are indeed all one, even though we're all completely separate from each other. And I'll get to that a little bit later as well. But we police our own thoughts, folks. We see things that totally upset us, but we stay silent about them. And we shouldn't do that any longer, which of course brings me to Gaza. I have a real affinity with the people in Gaza, folks. I actually went into Gaza Strip in 2012 and I snuck in through tunnels to get in there. It was quite an amazing experience. But a lot of people don't understand what's going on with Gaza. It's just this thing on the news, this mess, this religious war that people perceive is going on, and they just wish it would go away. But what's important about Gaza is that what we see in Palestine today and how it affects everybody is that what we see is a system of warehousing and surplusing human beings. This is your warehouse and this is your surplus. And what they're doing with these people is absolutely disgraceful, and this is ethnic cleansing, and it's been going on for 67 years. Now, this is what's happened with Palestine. When Israel was formed, this is what it used to look like, but then it became this when they set up the boundaries. How they ever thought that would work, I don't know, but obviously they didn't think it would work. That's why they set it up that way. But this war's been going on ever since 1948 when this happened, or 1947, and all through it Israel's been crying victim, while Palestine has been gradually decreasing in size. So who is the victim here? What's really going on? In West Bank, this is West Bank, actually that's West Bank in about 2005, it's a lot smaller than that now. In West Bank there are actually 760 checkpoints in West Bank. And you imagine that, I don't know what the size of Copenhagen is, but if anybody here's been to Australia, West Bank is about the size of Sydney Western Suburbs in Australia. 760 checkpoints, it takes up to 6 hours to get through a checkpoint. That's what they've got in West Bank. And what we see in Gaza is a group of people who decided they didn't want the checkpoints anymore, so they voted for a different government called Hamas, who said that we'll get rid of the checkpoints, we'll stop the Israeli land settlements, and we'll let the people here be free. And because they did that, they were named as a terrorist organisation. They built a wall around the country, and they've been bombing it ever since, basically. And what you've got here is an area of land that's 25 miles long, 4.5 to 5 miles wide, hemmed in by a wall, and you've got 1.8 million people in there, over 900,000 children in Gaza Strip. Over half the population is children. Of course, that number has probably dramatically decreased now from the recent Israeli incursion. What they were voting for, folks, when they voted for Hamas was an end to this, an end to the bulldozing of Palestinian homes and an end to the checkpoints. Someone who knows the bulldozers very well, actually, is this lady, Rachel Corrie. Has anyone heard of Rachel Corrie? Rachel Corrie was an activist she's actually quite well known for a 5th grade speech she put out, which is a very, very powerful speech. But she stood in front of an Israeli bulldozer to try to stop it bulldozing a doctor and his family's home. The Israeli bulldozer actually ran over her. And it didn't just run over her, it went right over the top of her until she was under the back of the bulldozer. Then it lowered the blade and backed up over her and flattened her into the road like it was flattening out the road. And her case went to trial while I was in Gaza Strip, so it's especially poignant for me. The bulldozer driver was, of course, exonerated of any wrongdoing. Rachel just happened to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time. He claimed he didn't see her, even though she was standing in front of him with a fluorescent jacket on, with activists all around the bulldozer screaming for the driver to stop. So that's the situation. This is what she was protesting against, folks. This is the Israeli settlements that go on in Gaza. They just basically come and take your land, usually in the middle of the night. They'll come in and shift families out. They just say, you don't live here anymore, it's now Israeli land. And they build these settlements. And these aren't log cabins, folks, these are major settlements. And of course, Jerusalem, the West Bank, the Palestinian side of Jerusalem has a big wall around it, but it's not an apartheid system. And that's basically Jerusalem. And Gaza has a much, much bigger wall around it, including guard towers. And it's to stop this. And that's why they voted for Hamas. So I went in there in 2012 with a guy called Ken O'Keefe. And these are the checkpoints. These are what they were protesting against. The Israelis didn't treat them very well at the checkpoints. There were far too many fathers stolen from their children, far too many children stolen from their parents as well. At the moment, there's around about 6,000 people in Israeli detention centres. There's about 1,000 children or 1,500 children under the age of 18 in Israeli detention centres at the moment. People just picked up at checkpoints, picked up for whatever. Doesn't really matter. They're only Palestinians, so we put them in jail. They inject them with pathogens before they release them, all sorts of stuff. It's absolutely terrible what these people go through. But when I got there, I went in with this guy, Ken O'Keefe. We actually snuck in through a rebel tunnel. It wasn't a Hamas tunnel, it was a rebel tunnel. 50 metres underground it was, folks. We went down through this shaft like this on an angle. We had to lower ourselves down with ropes. And I'm looking at this little tunnel. It's about this high. And it goes from about here to that wall away. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I wonder what's around that corner. I wonder if there's a grave around that corner. Because we're in Egypt. We couldn't even speak the language of these kids. We thought we were going through an official Hamas tunnel. And they led us to a rebel tunnel. And we went into this thing, and I shone the torch around the corner, and I looked, and this tunnel went on for ages, and I thought, well, it's not a grave. That's a good sign. In we go, you know. And we went into this tunnel, and it ended up being about this high. And I don't know how long. It must have been at least a couple of kilometres long, maybe a mile, maybe more, I don't know. We were underground for about an hour and a half, crawling on our hands and knees through Rafah, underneath the Rafah crossing. We came up in Gaza Strip, and what I found in Gaza was a bombed-out war zone and a world of children. I went in there, I made some school desks for some school children, some kids that were in there from the Samuni family. Terrible ordeal the Samuni family suffered in Operation Cast Lead in 2008, 2009. It's a situation where the Israelis, they always land on the Samuni land. They got this one particular family, they hoarded all of them into this one building, 97 members of this family, the extended family, the whole street is Samunis. They got them all into this one building. They terrorised one particular section of the family, a woman called Zanad Samuni, who's got 8 children. She was in the house with 7 of her children and her husband when the Israeli soldiers arrived, made them all sit down in the lounge room, and then they said, who's the head of the house? The father stood up, so they shot him straight away in front of the family. They hoarded the rest of the family into the back room of the house. Then they brought all the furniture into the room and they smashed it up. They built a bonfire in the back room of the house. All the people were sitting all around the room, sitting around the walls of the room. They lit this huge bonfire in the room. Then they went outside and they just fired machine guns through the windows just above their heads. Made them sit in there for about half an hour, just terrorised them for no reason at all. Waited till the room was so full of smoke that the baby was literally choking, and then they allowed them to leave. They separated the mother from her family. They sent the children into the room with the rest of the extended family, told her to go up the road to her neighbour's house or her friend's house, her family's house. And she went in there, she found they'd all been shot in the head. She went across to the shop to get her small son, who's 4 years old, called Ahmed. She found he'd been shot twice in the chest and once in the head, but he was still alive. The bullets had been placed carefully, so they'd punctured the lung, but they hadn't actually killed him. They weren't in the heart, they were just off-centre and shot just through the side of the head so that he wasn't dead, he was alive. She carried him around for a day and a half trying to get medical aid and medical attention. They'd blow up every ambulance she walked to. They absolutely terrorised her, made her carry her 4-year-old son around for a day and a half while he died. While this was happening, the rest of the extended family was hoarded into a room and it was hit with rockets. Once the 97 family members were in there, they shot it with rockets. They killed 29 family members in one go. Now this is an area, this is a room which is about probably the size of this group of people sitting here. That's the size of the room. Now think about it, 97 people hoarded into this room, and then the room was hit with rockets. 29 people died, and they were left in the rubble for 4 days before they'd let them out of the room. You got mothers lying next to their dead children, children lying next to their dead siblings and dead parents. Nobody's allowed out. Whenever the children would try to come out, waving white flags, the Israelis would shoot at them. And that's just one family. This happened to so many families in there. And what we've seen in the recent incursion in there is there was actually 92 entire families exterminated in this last incursion. And these are big families, like the Samuni is 97 family members. These are big families, folks, and it's a brutal occupation. So what I did when I went in there was I got the children from the Samuni family who are so traumatised they can't go to a normal school, and we turned the room that was actually hit by rockets that they've rebuilt into a schoolroom for the Samuni children because they want to learn. They want to learn how to read and write. They want to make a difference. They want an education. They want to be able to socialise with other children. but they can't go to normal school. So I built a school desk, a schoolroom for them while I was in there. It was a great thing to do. I was very happy that I could do it. This is the translator that we had there, Omar, young 21-year-old guy, 21 at the time, born in Palestine. Parents live in Dubai, but he was actually born in Palestine. He was living in Dubai, and when he turned 21, they told him, well, now that you're 21, we can't extend your permanent residence visa. You'll have to go back to Gaza. And they sent him back to Gaza Strip. He's been there for 2.5 years now, actually going crazy, can't get out. And that's the thing with Gaza, folks. Palestine isn't recognised as a country, so the people can't leave. You know, Israel says we give them warning, we're giving them they can leave if they want to, but they can't because they don't come from anywhere, because Palestine isn't a country. So therefore they have no passports, they have no permanent names, they don't have anything because they're not registered, any of this sort of stuff, so they can't leave because they're classed as non-people. So that's the thing, they don't have a voice and they can't leave, and they're just subject to constant brutality. Gaza Strip is basically a modern day version of the Warsaw Ghetto in Poland, only it's on a grander scale than the Warsaw Ghetto was. I'm showing you these pictures because I want you to see these are just normal people. This was a university that I lectured at while I was there. They were absolutely honoured to have a foreigner there, a Westerner there talking to them. Absolutely beautiful people. And like I said, a world of children. This little girl here, Noor Samuni, is a dear little girl, and someone that I want to go in and make a documentary about. I was actually supposed to go in there next month, but Hamas has changed the rules. But like I said, folks, it was a world of children. Everywhere I went in Gaza, I saw children. Just children everywhere. Many of them, like this little fella, bearing the battle scars of war. This little guy here lost 5 brothers and sisters and both his parents in one day in that bombing that I told you about. And just children everywhere, folks, a world of children. This is a shelter in Samuni Street where about 15 children live. This little guy said, Max, take a picture of me on my front porch. You know, very proud that he's got his chair and his little table there and he's just sitting there on his front porch. This is the way they live, and they're quite happy about it. They're wonderful, positive people. Everywhere I went, I met beautiful people in Palestine. I didn't meet one terrorist the whole time I was there. And this guy, hey Max, great to see you. You know, and no child should have battle scars like these kids have. This is my friend Mace. You notice she's not wearing a hijab. So it's not Sharia law, it's not terrorists, it's not this hotbed of terrorists. This is a woman, a Muslim woman with no hijab that is fine, and she's just walking around Gaza, it's all good. And there's a large Christian population in Gaza Strip as well. I even went to one building there that was a mosque on one side and a church on the other. They go into the one building and they pray together. There's none of the division that we hear about this place. It's just a group of children who don't have a voice, a group of people who don't have a voice. And they're beautiful, beautiful little people, you know, they really are. And I want to go back and find Noor. I'm still going to go in and make a documentary about her. I still have to get in there, but I'm waiting to see if I can. This was saying goodbye to her. That was the second last photo I took of her. She came running up to me and said, Max, I can fit in your suitcase? And I said, yeah, I know you can, darling, but I can't take you with me. I wish I could. She doesn't have any parents, so and she could speak English with the kids that I was building the desk for, so we had a real bond, this little girl and I desperately want to go back in and find her and make a movie about her life. So this recent incursion, folks, Operation Protective Edge, they called it. When you look at this, even the propaganda in this, you know, notice you've got the Israeli forces, then Hamas forces. What about the 1.8 million civilians in there? It's just Hamas forces. And who are Hamas? Hamas are a legitimate resistance movement against a brutal Israeli occupation, but they're a government that was actually created by Israel as competition to Fatah, to get rid of Yasser Arafat. But when the people voted for them, oh, terrorist group. So now they do this. And this ground invasion that they did and this onslaught that they did was absolutely disgusting, folks. There's a couple of really disturbing images here I'm about to show you. I just want to warn you of that. But what they did, and why this is important for people to notice, what they did in Gaza Strip was they go in there and they use experimental weapons all the time. This is one of the main reasons they keep Gaza there, is because they can go in and test all their weapons on them. Now this here is what's called dime ammunition, dense inert metal explosive ammunition. And what this does, this shoots a bullet into a room, and then the bullet explodes in the middle of the room and it shoots out micro shrapnel. And the micro shrapnel will literally tear flesh from the body, but it won't damage the furniture. It won't take the paint off the walls, it'll only affect soft tissue. And I don't know who would even think about this stuff. I mean, who would use this sort of stuff? But that's what they were using against the people in Gaza Strip. And these weapons are designed to, if they don't kill you, they will maim you horribly. In the latest incursion into Gaza Strip, we've heard that about 378 children or something were killed. There's also hundreds upon hundreds of disabled children now from this latest incursion into Gaza. And remember, most of Gaza is children. When you go and have a war against Gaza Strip, you're waging a war against children. That's what's going on there. And they dare to slander them while they do it by calling them terrorists. Now this ammunition, it literally tears the flesh from the bones, folks. It's absolutely shocking. These are wounds that you can't treat. These are the wounds of nightmares. And this is what they do to people, you know. Another favourite is this, flesh A bombs. They were using this in Gaza Strip as well. Flesh A bombs, these are micro darts that are designed in such a way as to make them almost impossible to remove from the body. They come in creative designs too. Let's get creative about it. And what these things do, this is one of the delivery systems. They shoot that into a room. All those little dots there, they're not ball bearings. These are those little spikes that I just showed you. And these go out into the room and they cause the most horrible wounds you can imagine. And they're almost impossible to remove from people's bodies because there's so many of them. Of course, if they hit you close up, they cause a little bit more damage. I thought I'd only pause on that one for a second. Another favourite one is white phosphorus that they use in Gaza. White phosphorus is a banned chemical weapon. It burns you from the inside out. It sucks all the oxygen out of your body. Your body has got a lot of oxygen in it, folks. If it lands on your body, it burns at about 1500 degrees and it sucks all the moisture out of your body, as you can see by this body lying here. They used that extensively in 2008 and it was classed as a war crime. It is a war crime. And these are pictures taken from July 2014. So using it again, they say they don't target civilians, but they let these bombs off in the air over residential areas and they just blanket the whole place in white phosphorus. And even if you breathe it in, it starts burning you from the inside out. Very bad stuff, folks. And they use it against these kids. That's what got me so upset about what's going on in Gaza at the moment, is that it's a war against children using the weapons from hell. You know, this is little Nora. This was the last picture that I took of her. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And she's an old soul, folks. She's a beautiful soul. But they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, so this picture tells me more about Benjamin Netanyahu than I think I ever needed to know. But that's the sort of soul that would turn this into this and claim that it's self-defense. That's actually the power station being blown up in Gaza. That's the power station. They blew that up on what is essentially the Muslim Christmas Day. And when they did it, they said, we're putting the people in Gaza on a diet. That's the sociopathic nature of these people, you know. It's absolutely terrible, folks. Make no mistake about it, it's a war crime. Everything that's happened in Gaza is a war crime. And the most important thing about it is that it's been carried out against a civilian population by a major Western country, a major superpower, a member of G8. This isn't Rwanda, this isn't Idi Amin, this isn't Ukraine, communists or whatever you want to call it, you know. This isn't anything that we, you know, some deep dark terror organisation. This is a major player, a member of G8 that is using banned chemical weapons and experimental ammunition against a population of children walled in. And this is something we need to pay attention to because all of this has been supported by our governments. Any government that supports Israel is supporting this. And when I speak out about Israel, I'm not speaking out against Jews. It's important to understand that. I'm speaking out against the criminal system, which is the Israeli government. And it isn't just the Israeli government. Israel isn't just a rogue state. All of our states are rogue states. Anything that supports this is a rogue state. Any government that supports the permanent economic slavery of their system, their citizens, is a rogue state. But what this has done is it's provided an opportunity for us. Because everything Gaza that just happened in Gaza was a war crime. Simply conducting a war against a population of walled-in children is a war crime. Blowing up mosques is a war crime. Blowing up ambulances, hospitals, schools, this is a war crime. Blowing up the UN school, all the hospitals they blew up, almost every hospital in Gaza. Taking out the waterworks is a war crime. Taking out the power plant is a war crime. Taking out the ancient monuments that they just took out. They took out stuff in Gaza Strip with this latest incursion that had been built in 300 AD. These are buildings that are Palestinian culture going way back, way back. And this again is another form of ethnic cleansing. You take out all of their culture, any trace that the Palestinians ever existed. And it's a war crime. All of it has been a war crime. And what we can do now is we can pressure our governments to make sure Benjamin Netanyahu is charged with war crimes and the Israeli government is charged with war crimes.
How does that benefit us? Well, because once Benjamin Netanyahu is charged with war crimes, even if it doesn't stick, which it probably won't because of the power of veto and what the United States does and how they control the UN anyway, at least the charges have been put forth and it's been acknowledged that the government committed war crimes. But that won't happen if we don't pressure our politicians to do it. But the thing is, as soon as they do, it opens the floodgates for us to charge our own governments with war crimes for supporting this war crime. And we don't need the UN for that. You can charge the government of Denmark under your own laws if this government is found to have supported Israel through this latest incursion. And that's a huge thing for us. We can all do that. And if we don't, then they've just shown us what they're prepared to do against civilian populations. And this is why it's dangerous building things like alternate communities, folks. You go out and you build yourself a little alternate community here, and we're all awake, and we all have this stuff, and we're going to create a working model. They like you to do that because you're not participating in this community while you do it. And all they've got to do is name someone in your alternate community as being a terrorist, and bang, you're a terrorist cell. They can spin it in the media any way they want. They can surround you and they can wipe you out with the weapons from hell because they've just been legitimised by this latest incursion. So if we don't pay attention to what's going on in Palestine, and as I've often said, the way of Palestine will be the way of the world, because what it is a system of warehousing and surplusing human beings. And this will be applied to all of our countries if we don't pay attention. Because it is a war crime, folks. Everything they've done is a war crime. From the killing of children to everything they've done. And that's just what it looked like halfway through the invasion, the list of children that have been killed. And these are the Hamas rockets, folks. This is what Israel's defending themselves against. We're always hearing about these terrible rocket attacks. These are sky rockets. These are metal pipes powered by fertiliser that come over and put a hole in your roof. They only kill you if they land on your head. Here's a big collection of them. They say, look at all the terrible rockets they're sending over. They're sending hundreds of rockets over. But how come you've got them all there on a shelf to show us? It's because they don't explode. They're just pipes. They're fertiliser-powered pipes. That's what they do. That's terrible, isn't it? I mean, imagine that. Imagine that in your yard. How terrible. That's what the Israeli rockets do, by way of comparison. There's the comparison there. I mean, there's a big difference between these rockets, folks. These ones put a black splodge on your road. But of course, the people of Israel are scared to death of these as well, because the people of Israel are terrified by their own government. They're terrorised by their own government. The government's constantly letting out air raid sirens and stuff. So they think, oh, there's these terrible rocket attacks coming, but we're deflecting them through our Iron Dome program. The Iron Dome program is a hoax. It's just a computer program that puts extra dots on the screen. You get one of these rockets launched from Gaza, the Iron Dome program will put 9 more on the screen and then shoot 9 of them down. And then this one falls short anyway because they never hit anything. They hardly ever kill anybody. I don't think anybody's actually been killed by Hamas rockets. Maybe a couple, but I don't think they've actually killed anybody with these things. So you've got to wonder, I mean, they provide the perfect opportunity that Israel needs to keep attacking Gaza. So what's the point of these things, you know? But the Iron Dome program is a complete hoax, but that's what is used to terrify the Israeli people. And the Israeli people, I mean, this is one of the most programmed societies on earth. It really is. I was speaking to an Israeli woman, and she was telling me how terrible it is that the Muslim mothers and the Muslim parents want to sacrifice their children. They worship death and they sacrifice their children. And that when you go and raid a Palestinian house, they hold their children up for you to shoot. That's what they believe. They say they hold their children up to shoot. It's terrible that they do this. But I said to her, look, hang on, if you're a mother in a house and you just were there with your child and there was an army bearing down on you, what would you do? Would you cower in your room? Or would you go outside and hold your child up to say, hey, look, it's just a mother and a child. There's no soldiers here. Don't attack us. Oh, no, they hold them up to shoot. I'm going, but why do you shoot? If they hold the child up, why don't you shoot the parent? If you're so concerned that the parent is holding the child up for you to kill the child, why do you kill the child? Who's guilty, the mother for holding it up or the soldier who shoots the child? But they hold their children up to say, hey, look, it's just a mother and a child, don't attack us. But the Israelis believed that, oh no, they want us to kill the children. And so they kill them. And of course, it's the Muslim that's to blame. It's an amazing program, folks. It's incredible. And the thing is, you try to talk to these people and they're programmed. They're programmed by a false history. And they're not lying to you when they tell you this stuff. This woman had tears coming down her face. She literally believed what she was saying. And no matter how much I tried to tell her the truth, she wouldn't listen. She was completely programmed into this reality. So that's what we're dealing with. So can you hate the Jews for what they do? Well, no, they're programmed into what they do. And a lot of it is through the supremacist religious system, because they're heavily indoctrinated into the religious system. And as I said, all religions have a seed of supremacism at their root. That's the basis of the whole thing. And this is what they're doing, folks. This is Gaza. It's unbelievable. But see, everything Israel tells us is backwards. They tell us that the Gazans use Palestinian children for human shields. Here's a Palestinian children being used as a human shield by Israeli soldiers. As you can see, they make pretty good footstools as well, you know. And they tell us that the Palestinians are trained to use weapons at an early age. And here are the people training their children. There's a young girl with a bazooka. She looks like she's 3. And this young kid here looks like he's like 3 years old. Are these guys doing battle training? Nice Uzi, Dad. You know, so there's a weird thing going on here. They tell us that these Hamas terrorists are always threatening themselves. But I don't know, folks. I was in Gaza. And look at these guns. What are these guns? These are AR-15s or M16s. These are American weapons. You don't see people in Palestine using American weapons. They use Kalashnikovs, Russian weapons you can use in the desert. You can't use American weapons in the desert. They jam up too much. But we're told all these guys have always got masks on when we see them, you know, so I don't know. I just wonder about all this stuff. Of course, there's this guy. Here he is wearing a Star of David, this Hamas soldier wearing a Star of David on his neck. His shirt's popped open. That's a bit unusual, isn't it? And again here, it's an American M16 or AR-15. It's an American-made weapon. Of course, there's a website that's been constructed now, which will say, oh, no, this is taken from a training camp. We set up training camps where we have all these people dressed up in uniform and making them out to look like Hamas so we can train our soldiers. But of course, that website came out after I found this photo. So I would suggest maybe that website was created to cover up the fact that this photo actually exists and that that's actually an Israeli agent acting like he's a member of Hamas. This is how they do it, folks, because everybody born in Gaza is a terrorist, after all. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu said. He said that you go into the houses in Gaza, and every house there'll be the kitchen, and then the bedroom, and then the rocket room. That's what's in every Israeli. And he said that they're all terrorists. Every man's a terrorist. All the women are terrorists, and all the children grow up to be little terrorists. You know, that's what they train us. That's what they think. But they're not terrorists. They're resistance fighters. So that's all you've got to do to be a terrorist, folks, is to question the system. If you fight back, you're a terrorist. And they're setting the standard for that now with this latest ISIS stuff. I mean, who believes this ISIS thing? And everyone's seen this beheading, this jihadi Jack? I mean, these fake videos they're putting out of the beheadings. I mean, and then you've got all these new laws coming in England to counteract this. I mean, it's very obvious where they're going, folks. It's very obvious where they're going. And you can't talk about it. You can't ever talk about it. As this guy said, this is a friend of mine, Gilad Atzmon, wrote a great book called The Wandering Who. And he made a great quote, which I have to share with you, that the real meaning of Jewish power is the capacity to silence any discussion about Jewish power. That's the thing. So what is Jewish power? I mean, the whole thing has been constructed as a mechanism to destabilise the Middle East. Is the power really Jewish? Is that who's really in control of Israel? I don't believe it is. I believe these people are Khazars that came from Europe anyway, and the whole thing's puppeteered by the banking cartels. But what it is a model where they use experimental weapon and they have a system of surplusing and warehousing human beings. That's what it is. It's all related. That's why our government support it all. It isn't the Jews doing this. It isn't even Israel doing it. It's this whole corporate system that's doing it. That's the thing. So you can't hate the Jewish people. You just got to realise how this has been set up. Sure, there's a group of Israelis who call themselves Jews that are doing a lot of bad stuff, but is it really the Jewish people? You know, I don't believe that it is. But that's what silences us, folks. We're just not allowed to talk about any of this stuff. And the people in Gaza, well, they deal with it as best they can. They make light of it. They paint on the walls. They do all sorts of stuff like that. Get a picture of an explosion and turn it into a fist for peace. I think it's wonderful that they have this attitude towards all these things. And when I was speaking to my friend Omar, the young guy I showed you before, he actually rang me up when I was at Boom Festival. You know, I managed to, he went into his neighbour's blown up wreck of a house that was being bombed. He scrounged around. He found himself half a cup of diesel in this old blown up tank. He went and scrounged a generator, put it in there, got enough signal in his mobile phone to ring me. And he's saying, oh, it's terrible, Max. There's bodies everywhere. It stinks like death. There's no water. There's no food. There's children being blown up. But I think everything will be okay. How's your son? Are you looking after yourself? Are you eating well? You mustn't stay up. Mustn't worry about me too much, Max. I'll be fine, you know. This is their attitude. They're absolutely incredible people. One conversation I had with him, I literally broke down in tears because I was so much in fear for his safety. And he said, come on, Max, be strong. I should be crying. What are you doing? And he started cracking jokes to cheer me up. And I could hear the bombs going off in the background in the phone call. Absolutely incredible people, mate. We could really take a lesson from them. But we do it everywhere. This is Libya. We really helped them out, eh? What do you reckon? That's a lot better. I like that. That's a lot better look than this. This is called bringing freedom and democracy to people, folks. And we do it everywhere. You know where this is? Anybody know where that is? Very progressive looking place, huh? Afghanistan in the 1970s, just before we got involved and freed them from their government, you know. And the Taliban and everybody that's in there, this was created because of the war against Russia, where America actually went in and radicalised the Muslims and taught them that the Russians weren't just attacking their country, they were attacking their faith. And they taught them about radical Islam and all of this sort of stuff. It all came from the West. We created all this. Even the whole Arab system, the whole Arab states came from the West. You look at the lines on the Arab states, these are drawn with a ruler. It's England that set up all of this stuff. They went over there with, Lawrence of Arabia, all that sort of stuff. They went over, they created the Suez Canal. And they went over there and they got all these sheikhs and they said, oh, you guys come to England and we'll educate you. Bring your children, we'll educate your children in Oxford and Cambridge. And by the way, you run the whole tribe. You're a king. And your children are princes and princesses, and here's your surroundings, here's your lands here. And they created the whole system. They created the whole hierarchical system of the Arab world that didn't exist a couple of hundred years ago. It was created by the West for a very good reason, to break the whole place up, create warring factions with each other. We do it all the time, folks. We did it in Africa, did a pretty good job with Africa as well, I thought. That's, again, the Crown Corporation. And this, what about this? What about this stuff, folks? This has been mankind's companion plant for about 10,000 years, and suddenly it's been banned. And because it's been banned, now everybody's getting sick with cancers. Everybody's not having access to the medicines they need. You have an endocannabinoid system in your body, and it's a companion plant for you. You have cannabinoid receptors in every single organ in your body. And if you eat this plant and you juice this plant and you put it in your food, you find that you don't really get sick. It's our companion plant. Plus, it makes the best quality food, the best quality building materials, the best quality paper, best quality materials, and yet they banned it. To keep us safe, of course. To keep us safe. If they legalise this plant or decriminalise this plant, I'm not into legalisation because that means rules. We don't need rules regarding plants. We don't have to legalise the lawn out there, you know. It just grows, you know. God didn't make a mistake. Okay, but this plant has been our companion plant for centuries, and I believe the banning of this plant constitutes a crime against humanity. It really does, and we need to start paying attention to this because if we were able to use this plant, then we'd find that most of the most pollutive businesses on the planet would instantly become redundant. We wouldn't have a forestry industry. We wouldn't be pulling down all of our forests because we can get better quality building materials from this. We wouldn't have plastics industries. We can get better quality plastics from this. You get better quality just about everything from this plant that we make. Paper, pulping, all of this sort of stuff. Materials, we don't need to grow cotton with all the pollution that goes with that. We could do it all with this plant. And this plant actually improves the soil that you grow it in. It'll grow anywhere. It'll give you a crop in 3 months, and it's actually improved the soil without any fertilisers at all. So why is this illegal? As I said, folks, it's a crime against humanity. And with this system, this is something else I wanted to put in there. You notice they show you what they're doing all the time? There's something about these controllers where they want to show you, they sort of have to show you what they're doing. Everybody remember this poster when it came out? The construction of the EU? It's a great poster. It really tells you what's going on. Of course, you've got up here the Baphomet star. That's lovely. And the Tower of Babel. We're building the EU. That's the EU, is the Tower of Babel. Of course, that's taken from this picture. So we know it's the Tower of Babel. But what else is in there? You see down here, you've got these guys here in suits. We've got this Tower of Babel, and it's separated by a moat. And this is like the pyramid with the separated from the capstone, you know, so that the elite are in the tower here, but everybody's separate from it. You've got these guys here in suits, who are the guys running the system, running the government, and running the newspapers, looking across the moat going, well, how do we get there? How do we get where you guys are? You know, they're kind of looking a little bit confused, and they're never going to get there, of course. They're just puppets. But look at all these things. These are the general population, the manual workers. Check them out. They're all blockheads. They're all blockheads, except for one. Can you see the one that isn't? Little baby down here. because we're all born with infinite potential. We can all be anything we want to be. And of course, then they went and built the Tower of Babel in Stockholm. That's the, amazing. That's the head of the EU. So they tell you what they're doing all the time. And that's what they're doing, folks. That's where they're heading us, into a world like that, where you can enslave your fellow human beings and rape the planet and be praised for your good business sense. Because that's what we've got. That's what it's about. And something else they're trying to do, transhumanism. This is another place they're leading us. They're disconnecting us from ourselves and leading us into a digital world, a virtual world, like I said before. You've got kids that are texting each other from across the rooms now. Go to parties and there's kids literally texting each other from across the room because they've lost their communication skills. They're losing their life skills. You know, the internet and all of this stuff, this technology has made the world smaller to many degrees. I'm able to talk to people all around the world. I'm able to do a radio show across America where I'm sitting in a little cabin in Byron Bay. All these sorts of things are wonderful, but it's disconnecting people from their life skills, especially among the children. We're seeing a lot of this among the kids. They're just losing their ability to be able to communicate, their ability to be able to be themselves and acknowledge themselves. A lot of people create new personas online, something that isn't really them. You know, and then when they meet people, they're kind of embarrassed that they're not as cool as they pretended they were online. Because, of course, they're judging themselves by one of the three pathogens. And they tell us what they're doing. Anyone seen this movie? Transcendence, new Johnny Depp movie. They tell you where they're going. This is about a guy who uploads his consciousness into a computer. And, of course, he creates nanotechnology. The nanotechnology goes up in clouds and starts raining down around the world. And that's what's going on as well, folks, if anyone wonders what the chemtrails are all about. Chemtrails are a multi-platform delivery system. There's all sorts of things being found in chemtrails. Perhaps they are being used to combat global warming, as some people think. Perhaps they are. Perhaps it is all being done for our benefit, but I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think these people that are carrying out fracking around the planet and carrying out all of the destructive processes they're carrying out would really be too concerned about protecting us from the heat of the sun. I don't think that's the plan at all. But transhumanism is presented as being something really wonderful, something that's going to enhance us, something that's going to improve our lives. But really all it's doing is locking us further and further into a digital world, and eventually, and it all leads back to government as well. It's another way of controlling you. Everything that they do, if you've got a digital world and everything's monitored, if everything's digital, everything's monitored. They're talking about situations where you won't even need your mobile phone anymore. You can have a little implant in your head, and you won't even have to communicate. You won't even have to speak your information to the person on the other end of the phone. You can just think it. Anyone seen these new gaming machines that have come out where you can actually think? You can sit there and control the game with your mind, and the game will facial recognition and all sorts of stuff, can tell how many people's in the room, all sorts of stuff, all presented to the world as a game. You know, this is insidious where they're taking it. You know, just think about it. You can control the game with your mind. You can do that because you're an electromagnetic being. And everything you experience is electrical. This is quite literally a biological computer. It's a vessel that harvests a frequency from the field that you experience as you. And I'll go into that in a little bit as well. But this is where we're going, folks. That'll be a wonderful life for our children, don't you think? Living there in a virtual world, it's all good. You've got all this great stuff going on. It's just that reality isn't really that good. So you just don't pay attention to that anymore. And that's where they're going, folks. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's what transhumanism is. So let's cut through some of the tape, shall we? Why is it so difficult to wake people up? Why is it so difficult when we can tell people all this stuff and the society remains apathetic? Why is it? Well, there's so many reasons. There's so many ways that we're controlled. Fluoride absolutely limits brain function. It prevents cognitive thinking. You can tell people it's all messed up and they go, yeah, wow, it really is. I can see what you're saying now. And they just go back to what they're doing. It's incredible, you know. And the food that they eat. What's in the GM food? What's in the food that we eat now? It's not the same as the food that we ate when I was a child. So we're being bombarded from all directions, folks, and that's where it starts with the children. You like that one? That was a morph, yep. That's what they do. And the electromagnetic radiation as well. I think the first speaker touched on that. Like I said, you're an electromagnetic being. And if you can control a game with your thoughts, what makes you think the game can't control your thoughts? You know, all I've got to do is get in there, find a way in. So, oh yeah, get a microchip. It's all good. You can do your barcode. It's easier for shopping. Put a back door into the computer. That's what it's about, so they can control you even more. But people are waking up, folks. People are waking up to the control grid. And there's so many ways that they control us. But what people have to do, folks, is realise that There is a spiritual way out of this. There is a spiritual understanding that we can use. Now, when I was in 2008, I had this incredible experience that I want to share with you. I was in a meditation state, and I was just there, and I was sitting in my chair in front of my computer, and suddenly I found that I was actually sitting in the center of my heart. I was just sitting there, and I was looking out, and I could see the outer skin of my body, and it looked like blue mesh. Everything looked like it was made of blue mesh, like a 3D graphic program. And I could see all of the atoms in my body. Every one of them looked like a solar system, and all the cells looked like galaxies, and all the organs looked like superclusters. And I realised that I've got an entire universe in my body. And then I realised that I wasn't just sitting in the centre of my heart, I was also sitting in the centre of my heart of the one sitting in my heart. So I was 2 layers down. And I could see 2 of me outside there. And I could see outside of myself. I could see the walls of the desk, I could see the computer, I could see the walls of the house, I could see through the walls to the street, people walking down the street. I could see the hills, I could see the whole earth, I could see everything. And I was there and I'm going, this is amazing, it's a fractal. Everything's a fractal, it's a fractal reality, as above, so below. And what's important is consciousness and my perspective of reality. That's what I realised. I was having this amazing insight happening, and I saw this white light forming at the top of my head. I don't know how I saw it, but I seemed to be inside myself and outside myself looking at myself. It was interesting. But this white light formed at the top of my head, and it fell down like a drop, and it hit the ground beneath my chair, and it rippled like in a pond, like you're dropping a stone into a pond, and it rippled out, and everything turned into white light, everything. And then it just went whoosh, and it kind of split on all around me, and suddenly I was everywhere all at once. I could see myself from every possible perspective all at once, not like a little bunch of screens. I was everywhere all at once. And I connected with everything, like a quantum universe, millions and millions of universes all together, all made up of the same consciousness. And I connected to the whole thing, and I felt all of the emotional input. I felt all of the love, all of the pain, all of the suffering. I felt everything. And I fell out of my chair onto my knees, and I cried for 7.5 hours. It was such a profound experience. I just took this deep breath, and I fell out and I cried. And I couldn't even tell anybody about it. As soon as I'd start to tell people about it, I'd start sobbing. It was ridiculous. It was just a mess. But it was because it was so beautiful and so profound. It wasn't anything that upset me. It was just this profound insight. When it happened, when that moment happened, I went, oh my God, I wonder if I'm the one. I wonder if I'm the second coming. And when that happened, I thought, wow, isn't that trippy that you had that thought? Why would you think that? Of course you're the one. Everybody's the one. We're all divine. And then I realised why some people have that thought and they run with it. Their ego kicks in and they run with it. But really, it wasn't like that for me. It was just a profound moment, and suddenly I understood why people have that thought. But I also understood what I am and how we energetically create reality. There is no matter. It's all a matter of perspective. What I realised is that this is literally a biological computer, and that my consciousness is not local to my body. It exists out here in the field. This is just simply a vessel that has a particular DNA sequence that harvests that frequency from the field that I experience as me. And you do the same thing that you experience as you, but it comes from a single consciousness. There's only actually one of us here, and that's the universe. It's all one single consciousness, and it's an energetic consciousness. You know, the stuff of reality itself, the fabric, is conscious. And this field, it is empty, it's full of energy. What's real is the space. All matter is divisions in space based on perception. This is the insight that I had, and I discovered my own perfection. I realised that I am absolutely perfect because no one can be me better than me. No one else can do this. No one else can have this perspective. It's absolutely unique to me. And it's the same for all of you. You're all absolutely perfect because you're perfect at being you, and no one can do that better than you. No one will ever have the perspective that you've got. And if you believe yourself to have limitations, or you believe yourself to be imperfect in some way, then it's usually because of parameters that are given to you by someone else. Or perhaps you've got a health issue. Perhaps you've got a limb issue or something like that. That's okay too, because it's important for you to have that perspective. And it's that perspective that's important. That perspective is what makes you you, and that is what is unique about you. And that perspective is needed, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But being you is what you came here to be, obviously, because that's who you are. And otherwise you wouldn't be here. What does that mean? Does it mean anything? It's all good? I can still go? Good. So it shows you that you're perfect. It shows you that you're perfect at being you. Let there be light. See, it was a very enlightening moment, I guess. But You are. You're perfect at being you. And when you can really see this and really understand that no one can have the perspective you've got, that is absolutely unique to you, why would you consider yourself to be anything but perfect? And when you can truly see that, you begin to respect yourself for all the flaws that you may have. It's all part of the learning curve. It's all part of the process. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with these flaws. What sort of reality do you project because of what these perceived flaws give you? You know, is it something positive? Is it something that you grow by? Or are you caught up judging yourself by all these parameters that are given to you by somebody else? That's the thing. But I discovered that perfection in myself, and suddenly I started to see it in everybody else. And all of the barriers broke down between me and other people. I don't know anybody that I have stuff with. I don't know anybody that I dislike. I have arguments with people, I have fallouts with people, but they always work out. It always works out. Even Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't hate him. I hate what he does, but I don't hate him. He's doing it because he's programmed. He's a psychopath. That's what psychopaths do. And what they've done is they've provided us with a fantastic opportunity to deal with these psychopaths, because now it's right in our face. But that's the thing, you know, that perfection of yourself, that's the key to the whole thing, because then the barriers break down with people. And if you can break down these barriers, you can change reality. It's your emotional input into reality that creates the reality. That's why they keep us in this state of fear. Fear-based mind control, everything. It's there in the back of everybody's mind. Is there enough money for this? Is there enough money for that? Am I good looking enough? Am I this? Am I wealthy enough? Am I successful enough? All of this stuff. What about you? Are you artistic enough? Are you expressing the art of your life? Because that's what it is. This life is an artistic expression of creation, and you are a unique art form of consciousness. And once you apply that to the people around you, the barriers break down, and suddenly we've got an empowered community that respects each other. Because if we have that basic respect for ourselves, then respect for others comes by default, and then the whole system breaks down. Now, if we had an empowered community, we could simply stand up and say, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. And guess what? All these people agree with me. But we're kept divided from each other. We kept judging ourselves by the three pathogens: the social pathogen, the economic pathogen, and the religious pathogen. That's where all the problems come from. And what I discovered in that meditation was my own perfection. And it's something that I've been trying to share. But what I also discovered was this emotional input to reality that we create. You think about that. You create reality by your emotion and your intention. Okay? But it's a collective thing. If there's only one of us here, then it's a collective projection, isn't it? People say, you know this, you know that you can create your own reality. Why don't you change it? Well, it's because it's a collective projection. I can only change my bit of it and hope to ripple it out and help other people realise the truth about themselves, and then we can change things, you know. But what I found was that you can change things in your life emotionally by the input you put in. There's a conversation going on all the time between you and reality, which is an electrical conversation. It's happening all the time via the energy that is in your heart. You think of your body as a biological computer, your heart is the power source, your brain is a quantum instrument that turns possibility into actuality. Okay, so what I was doing, I was sitting there thinking, well, this is a fantastic insight that I've just received from this meditation, even though I can't tell anybody about it because I'm constantly crying. But it was a fantastic insight, but I thought, well, a good way that I can get the message that I've got out to the world would be to be a radio host. How do I be a radio host? I didn't know anything about being a radio host. I didn't even know there was internet radio. I didn't even know about YouTube at the time. But then I discovered it about a couple of weeks later. I discovered YouTube, and I started making slideshows on YouTube. But while I was doing all of this, I thought, okay, it's an emotional reality. I started thinking about the American Indians. An American Indian will do a rain dance, not by getting out there and praying for rain. What they will do is they will put themselves in the state where they're standing in the pouring rain. Emotionally standing in the pouring rain. They can feel it running down their body. They can feel their toes squishing in the mud. They can smell it running down the walls of the hut. They put themselves in that emotional state, and then reality will mirror that back to them and rain comes. So what I did, I got up and I did my work, and I was making slideshows, putting them on YouTube, doing all this stuff, and I'm putting myself in the emotional state where I'm a radio host. I got up and sat at my computer every day and I went, I'm a radio host. Didn't know how the hell I was going to go about it, but hey, I'm a radio host, that's what I'm going to do. Within 6 weeks, I'd created a slideshow, put it up on YouTube. It got seen by a radio host in Kansas who said, gee, I love your slideshow. I've been trying to wake my neighbour up for 5 years and I couldn't. Your slideshow woke him up. Come onto the radio for an interview. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? So I went on and did the interview. They said, oh, they loved you. Can you come on again next week? And I went, yeah, no worries. So I did, and he said, well, can you be my regular Wednesday guest? And I said, not a problem. So I did that for a month, and then after that, the radio station said, Max, they love your voice. They love the Australian accent. We want to offer you a show as a radio host. So within 6 weeks of me having this insight, and then sitting there and putting myself in that energetic state, I was a radio host, speaking live radio. You can tune in on your dial, not internet radio, actual live radio that goes right out across America. And I never had any idea how to do this before, but I put myself in the emotional state and I didn't try to do anything. It just all came and fell in my lap because reality mirrored it back to me. And then I thought, well, if I give all the information that I do and I give it all for free, then if it's right and I'm on path, I believe that reality will look after me and I'll be where I'm supposed to be. Since then, I've travelled right around the world. It's incredible. I haven't tried to do any of it. It just kind of happens. And I keep travelling, keep meeting people, keep bringing the information out, and it just kind of falls in my lap. Later on in that year, actually a couple of years later, I'd been experimenting because someone told me, I talked about this meditation to someone, and someone said, that sounds like a DMT experience. DMT in your brain, we're supposed to have more of this active. And I thought, well, I don't know, but I'll see. I ended up trying some DMT to see what it was like, and went, well, that wasn't a DMT experience. But during that DMT experience, I met what appeared to be this female consciousness, this Earth Mother, that said, look, you've got to come back and talk to me because there's more stuff I need to show you. I thought, well, that's interesting, but I'm not going to do DMT again. I'm not into that. So if I'm ever going to talk to this Earth Mother again, I'll do it properly. I'll do an ayahuasca ceremony. I'll go to Peru and do it properly with a shaman, And all of these people kept offering me ayahuasca ceremonies all around Byron Bay, and I didn't feel comfortable about it. Didn't want to do it, didn't feel comfortable with the people, any of this sort of stuff. And then out of the blue, I got a message on Skype from some guy who says, hey Max, unforeseen circumstances, we've been stuck with a spare ticket to Peru to go to a 10-day ayahuasca retreat. Would you like the ticket? Really, and this happens to be a guy who listens to my show who happens to live 45 minutes from my house. This is an American radio show. This is this guy in Australia who lives 45 minutes from my house, offers me a ticket to Peru for a 10-day ayahuasca retreat. And she'd been calling me all the time, and I'm saying, no, I'm not going to do it unless I can go to Peru and do it with the shaman. And then it just get dropped in my lap. I thought, well, shit, I better go. Otherwise she'll probably come in 3D and kick my butt, So I didn't even have a passport at the time. I hadn't travelled for years, didn't have a passport, had to go get a passport, get organised, went off on this trip to Peru. I left Australia for 10 days. I had a certain amount of money in my pocket. I ended up staying away for 3 months, went right around the world, and came back, and I had exactly the same amount of money in my pocket as when I left. I got home, and I'm sitting at home. And I'm sitting at home at my desk, and I'm pulled out the money, and I put it on the counter, and I went, did all that just happen? Was that actually real? And during that, I went into Gaza Strip. I did all sorts of stuff you just could not imagine. And all I did was go away for 10 days. But again, it was just mirroring and following the synchronicity, not making any plans. See, I don't have any plans for anything I do. And even with what I do with this system and trying to speak out against this system, I don't have any stake in the outcome. If humankind wants to destroy themselves, well, go ahead and destroy yourselves. It's not my conscience. It's nothing to do with me. If that's what the human race wants to do, well, that's what it will do. I just do what I do because I can see we have an enormous amount of potential to actually do something else rather than destroy ourselves. But if this is the best we can do, and if human consciousness isn't going to wake up, then it's probably best if we do destroy ourselves because this isn't very good. But again, I don't have any stake in the outcome. I just do what I do because it needs to be done. When I go and travel, I don't have any stake in the outcome. People say, Max, how do you do that? How did you go around the world without planning it? I go, well, if I had plans, I wouldn't have gone around the world because I would have had other plans. That's how I do it. I don't plan anything, and if it doesn't work out to what I think it should, that's okay because I didn't have a stake in the outcome anyway, and there was probably something else along the line that I missed. But I just look for the synchronicities all the way. Like I said, you're having this electromagnetic conversation all the time. This is going on with you in reality all the time. It's an emotional electromagnetic conversation, and there's synchronicities that come into your life, and if you follow them, all these paths unfold for you, but don't have a stake in the outcome and don't plan it to go a certain way. I mean, sure, you might be planning to build a sandcastle. You want it to come out like this. That's okay. Planning to go to Peru. That's okay. Have the plan to go and do something, but don't think, well, when I get there, I'm going to go to this point, I'm going to go to this point, I'm going to spend 3 hours here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You miss out on all this stuff along the way because you've got all these plans. And life is offering you these experiences, but you're not concerned about it because you want the little holiday that it says in the brochure you have to have, and then you can go back and show all your slideshows to people and go, look, we were there, see? But you didn't really experience it, and you didn't really experience yourself the whole time. See, this whole thing is about experiencing ourselves, and that's what we've lost, folks. Everything about this system is designed to remove us from ourselves. But that's what I got from the talk that I did in Lakesh. In Lakesh is something that I finish every single radio show with. Anybody here heard my radio shows? I finish every single radio show with In Lakesh. In Lakesh means I am another yourself, okay? And that's what we are, and that's the way I apply myself to reality. That's the way I apply myself to everybody I meet. I try to treat them as myself, because that's what they are. It's a mirror reflection of me. Like I said, it's a biological computer downloading a specific frequency. If you took a kidney out of my body and put it in your body, you'd start experiencing me. Not because the kidney has memory, but because the kidney downloads that frequency from the field. So you'd get this replacement kidney and suddenly you've got a craving for Mexican food. Suddenly you want to play some guitar and listen to some Frank Zappa music and you go, hang on, I like classical, you know. Why is this stuff suddenly appealing to me? It's because you've got aspects of my personality in you now, and that's what's being downloaded. But consciousness actually exists out here. It's not local to your body. Okay, that's a really, really important understanding to have. And it opens up a whole new universe for you. It really does, when you can really see this about yourself. And that's when you discover your own perfection. You really do. But we're led away from all of that. We're given external parameters, and we don't believe in Lakesh. But it's a reality, folks. So what we've got to do, I believe, is embrace the warrior spirit. Okay, now what is the warrior spirit? It doesn't mean we're going to go out and fight, but it means we're going to be respectful. You know, like I do what I do out of respect. I don't do it out of hate for Benjamin Netanyahu or hate for government. I do it out of love for you guys, love for myself, love for my son. I get incredibly angry with what's going on in the world, but it's what I do with that anger. I channel that anger into positive action, positive discussion with people. And even if you've listened to my shows, they're always very calm. I try to keep eloquent and keep sort of on track. And even if I've delivered a problem to you, I'll deliver to you what I believe the solution may be. And again, it's my perspective. And even everything I'm saying up here today is my perspective. That's all I've got to offer you is my perspective. I can't offer you the truth, because what is truth? What is your truth? You know, it's what's good for you. All I can offer you is my truths and what's worked for me, in the hope that it will help you rediscover yourself. And rediscovery is what it is. It's not discovery, it's rediscovery, because I believe we all knew this once. We all knew that we were connected. We all knew that we are all one, but we are all completely separated and unique at the same time. And we can be both, because that's the only way reality can happen. It's the only way it can work, you know. But we've got to reapply ourselves to the art of our lives. We really do. That's where the truth comes from. And the warrior spirit will cause me to question authority at every single occasion. But I don't attack it, I question it. I don't talk to police officers, I talk to a man who's wearing fancy dress, you know. I don't view the office of police to something to fear. I just talk to the person inside the uniform, you know. And I treat them with respect, because they're only doing what they're doing because they're programmed. A lot of the police believe they're doing the right thing. A lot of them are sociopaths and thugs and psychopaths as well, and they're hired and they're screened to be that way. But still, there's good elements in there. There's still good elements in everything. And if we're respectful, I believe we can change things. The warrior spirit will cause me to stand up and protect my family, but to do it in the right way, not to attack the other person, and also to respect what other people have to say, respect what other people have to offer. There's been a lot of systems and alternate systems that have been set up by people to attempt to help us, things like the Zeitgeist movement, the Venus Project, all these things, whether they're flawed or not. I believe that the people who set them up aren't evil people. They see there's a problem and they see what their perspective of the solution may be, and they offer it to us, and we look at all these things and we shout it down as a new world order, and we won't discuss any of it. But I think there's probably seeds of gold in all of these. Like in the Venus Project, there's a seed of gold in there. We do need to manage our resources properly. The rest of it, I don't like. Don't want to know about it. It looks like a machine. I don't want to live there. I don't think we need to construct any new system at all. Same as the Zeitgeist movement, we do need to change the Zeitgeist. We need to change the paradigm. There's a seed of gold in there. And Peter Joseph and the crew, these are highly left-brain, over-intellectual people. And I say over-intellectual because they really are. It's all over-intellectualised. It really is. There's no soul food in there. It's all left brain thinking. But again, they're offering you the solution that they believe may work. And we shout all of this stuff down. And we can't even use words anymore. I mean, think about it. We can't use a word. Like if I was to say we need to unite everybody to a common purpose. Oh my God, the common purpose movement. He's part of the New World Order. You see, you can't. I say we need to create sustainable societies. Oh my God, sustainable development, he's Agenda 21. It's getting to the stage, they've hijacked all the language, all the good phrases, everything that actually works. Oh, let's create a system around this. It's getting to the point, folks, so we're not even going to be able to communicate rebellion to each other because all the words have been hijacked. We're going to have to communicate in sign language or something like that, you know. We're getting to the point we can't even talk to each other anymore, and that's a real problem, you know, because we're not respecting each other. We're not creating any dialogue, and that's what the warrior spirit would do, you know. There's been a lot of, like over the last couple of hundred years, couple of thousand years, there's been an incredible amount of work done to suppress the divine feminine, to remove the mother spirit from the mothers, and teach women that if they want to be successful in this modern world, they've got to put on shoulder pads and go out and rape the planet the way a man would do. Right? That's called being successful. And this has really squashed the divine feminine, and there's been all sorts of steps to bring it back, giving women the right to vote, all this sort of stuff. Really, does anyone know how that really came about, the right to vote for women? I mean, the Rockefellers did that. Or the right to vote and the right for equal pay and all this sort of stuff. Before that time, women were mothers, they were nurturers, they looked after their children, but no, we want equal rights and the right to pay, which meant that now the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds can tax the whole population. They're only taxing half the population before women's lib, right? They're only taxing half the population. Now they can tax the entire population, and not only that, but they get your children a lot earlier so they can program them to be good little consumers as well. Okay? Women's liberation wasn't women's liberation at all. It was women's introduction to the slavery system that's controlled the men for so long. That's what it was. And now there's all this talk of bringing back the divine feminine, so all the men have to kind of back down and acknowledge the divine feminine. And in the process, a lot of men have turned into these fluffy little things, you know. The New Age movement, fluffy little guys who just, oh no, that's all negative. No. We need the divine masculine as well, folks. We do. We need to have the balance there, divine feminine and masculine, you know. And again, this is the warrior spirit, you know, that needs to do this. I mean, it's the warrior spirit that causes me to do what I do, and I'm not out fighting people. I'm not getting into fights and belittling people and all this sort of stuff. But I question authority, and I act with integrity in what I do, and that's being a warrior. And we've all got the ability to do it. Everybody has, but you've got to rediscover yourself in order for it to happen. Like I said, it isn't that great people do great things, it's that little people don't believe they are capable of great things. But you are. Everybody is. Just the fact that you're here is a great thing. I find the fact that this is a computer downloading a frequency that gives this single consciousness the ability to communicate with itself in this incredible reality, this is mind-blowing. This is such a gift. And we have so much potential to do whatever we want with it. But if we don't rediscover ourselves, we're never going to do it. See all the systems, Zeitgeist Movement, Venus Project, even Ubuntu. Who's heard of Ubuntu? Michael Tellinger. I actually like the idea of it. It would be a great thing, but you're not going to get people to do it. You're not going to get people to step out of this system and into that system because it's too alien to them. But if we change our heart space and we change the way we interact with people and we live in Lakesh and act according to moral parameters rather than legal parameters, question any law which causes you to deviate from your moral compass, then we can change the world in a day. We really could. And if we do that and we start applying these understandings to the communities that we live in, we won't have to reconstruct any system. The new system will reconstruct itself around our new consciousness. And we'll end up in the point where we realise that we don't need a system at all. You know, the thing is, there's been a series of steps that have been taken to get us here, and we need to find a way of reversing the sequence. And it's got to start with respect. Because if we don't change this, then any system that we construct is going to end up just like this, because we didn't change our heart space to begin with. You know, and we're looking for saviours all the time, and there is no saviours. There is no gurus. The guru is you, folks. It's a multifaceted reality, and the guru is you. And we've got to bring it all together, bring all the ideas together and find the seeds of gold in there. Because there's seeds of gold in everything. There really is. We do that, folks. We apply ourselves to the world around us. We can create any reality that we want. That's what I want to do with the Full Circle Project. Full Circle Project was something that I tried to launch last year, and I got caught up in Gaza and all sorts of stuff that was going on. It was originally going to be designed to combat the destruction of the Amazon rainforest. I thought that If I could suddenly get a lot of people involved and buy a huge section of threatened Amazon rainforest and basically give it back to the natives, that it would demonstrate to the world just what we can do if we apply ourselves. Since then, the playing field has changed a lot, so I've decided the Full Circle workshop is going to have to be much broadened. We're not going to save the Amazon by buying sections of it. They've shown us what they're doing in there now. There's actually this project, the Chemistry Gas Project, where they're just basically going in and wiping out tribes that have not even been contacted yet. They're just going in and decimating them. I hope to raise $1 million to buy this section of Huitoto land. The Peruvian government has just spent $75 million advertising the fact that they're going to destroy it. So I don't think my $1 million is going to go very far. And even if I do buy it, they're going in and decimating Amazon rainforest anyway. I found a huge section of Amazon rainforest, about 40,000 hectares, that's been cleared illegally, right out in the middle of the jungle. They do these little roads in from the back villages, and they find a spot that works. They send out the coordinates, and then Chinooks come in and drop bulldozers, and they just clear the whole lot, plant palm oil, and harvest it all, process it all on the site, and use helicopters to get it out. And they're doing that all over the Amazon. So I realise that the Full Circle project has got to encompass a lot more than that. I'm going to try to launch it in earnest next year. There's actually some flyers that have been done by a lovely friend of mine, Louise, who's actually helping me manage the project, who's here today. And please grab a flyer when you leave. But what I'm going to be doing is a series of workshops, perhaps get even some of the speakers here involved. And we're going to go out and try to re-educate people on how to deal with their governments, how to create strong, empowered communities. For those of you who want to create alternate societies and alternate communities, like I said, these can be counterproductive because you're isolating yourself from this society and this community. You know, you've got to look at the problem that caused you to want to go and build an alternate community. If you go and build that alternate community, the problem is still there, and it's getting worse because now you're over in this alternate community and you're not paying attention to it. If you want to build your alternate community, your sustainable society, your permaculture, whatever you want to do, try to find a place that is within this community, maybe just on the edge of town or something, and get the people in town involved. You've got to create ripples in this larger community. We don't need alternate communities. We already have community here. We need to fix this one by paying attention to it and applying ourselves to it. And again, you know, you try to do this without respect for people and it doesn't work. If you're judging each other by pathogens, by social pathogens and economic pathogens, it's not going to work. So you've got to create this electromagnetic field, if you like, yourself, and change the way you interact with people. I've often said, you know, we know people down the road, but we don't know the people next door. Why not? Go get to know them. If you're doing something at home, if you're baking bread, baking biscuits, bake some extra, give them to your neighbours. Get to know them a little bit. Because if you want to wake people up, you've got to become their friends before they'll listen. You go up and tell someone, oh look, the New World Order, the government, the this, the that, the fracking, everything, they just go, oh my God, I'm not going to be like this guy because my life was happy before I knew this shit. You know, I'm not going to be like this guy because I'm going straight into fear. But if you get to know people and become their friends and then just plant little seeds, just suggest things to them. Maybe they will listen to your political views now because you become their friend. But you know, you go up to someone and you say, look, all this stuff's going on, they go, oh my God, and it's a complete challenge to their reality because basically what you're telling them is, look, everything you thought was real up to this point, everything you've done in your life has been completely meaningless. You've been looking at the world from the wrong perspective. It's actually like this and you thought it was like that. And they're going, oh my God. You've just challenged everything they believe to be real. This is hugely confronting to people. So you can't do that. You've got to become their friends and plant seeds and push them towards a doorway that they can walk through themselves. Because real truth has to be realised. It has to be discovered for yourself. There was a moment in your life when you discovered the truth. There's very few people who are born awake. I'm lucky I was one. I was born awake. I woke up when I was 4 anyway. I found out something was terribly wrong. And that changed my life. I could talk about that if you want, but anyway. You've got to become friends with people, folks, and you've got to realise that you're challenging their paradigm by bringing in this information. So you've got to bring it to them in a way that they can discover things for themselves, because real truth has to be realised. My moment of awakening, and that's something as well, like you've got that moment that you had. Perhaps that what woke you up. If you suggest things to people in a way that they can discover that truth for themselves, maybe it will wake them up. Because you've got a responsibility to do so. Just the fact that you're awake means you have a responsibility to help other people rediscover themselves. The way it was for me, I was 4 years old, I was up in the forest with my mother, up in the rainforest, first time I'd ever been there. Walking around in the forest, I'm going, this is great, Mum. This is fantastic. Why do we come and live here? What are we living down in this house in town for? Let's come and live here. She said, oh, we can't live here. I went, why not? She said, because we don't own the land.
I went, own the land? What do you mean own the land? She said, oh, well, we have to own the land. I said, who owns the land? And she said, the government owns the land. And I said, how do they get that? How did they get it, you know? And she said, oh, you'll understand when you get older. And I went, no, I don't think I'm ever going to figure this out. And excuse me if I swear, but I did swear. I was 4 years old. I was walking around the backyard with my little teddy bear. I'm walking around, I'm going, Teddy, it's all fucked up. Something is terribly wrong with the world. I've been born onto the wrong planet. These people think they can own the earth, you know? That's the way it was for me. I'll tell you, school was very difficult from that point. When I went to school, I got kicked out of 4 schools, 4 high schools, for arguing with my teachers. I had my own desk outside the principal's office for the last 6 months of school. I was halfway through my 3rd year of high school. I was doing exams, and I was just sitting at the desk outside the principal's office, and I just went, what am I doing here? And I got up and walked out, and I haven't ever been back. People say to me, Max, you're so articulate. You know all this stuff. Where were you educated? And I go, I wasn't. That's how come I know all this stuff. They never got hold of me, you know. So I was never trained into that system. And I got a job as a musician because I could play guitar. I thought, okay, well, this works for me. I'm experiencing art. I like that. So I live the art of my life, and I'll tour the world as a musician, living on the outside of society, which gave me the ability to research all the stuff that I've been researching. It was a hobby for my whole life. And then when 9/11 happened, like so many people, it shifted, and my research became what I do, and music became my hobby. But it's really weird how my life set me up for this path, and I never really knew it. Even when my wife and I broke up and my family was separated, the only way I could interact with my son was by joining a game clan, so I could play in a game with him online, which taught me how to do Photoshop, taught me how to do movie editing, taught me about how the social systems on the internet work, all sorts of stuff, and totally prepared me for the situation where I could make documentary films. It just all happened that way. And then the radio show comes, and suddenly I'm making documentary films and doing radio shows and all this stuff, and I've got all this information that happened because I was able to live on the outside of society, which only happened because I was into art. I was into the art of myself and the art of my life. So I know it works, folks. I know it works, but everything I did led me to this point without me ever trying to get there. It was just seeing the opportunities along the way and what you do with them, what you do with the information. So I think that's what life's about. You know, life is about what you do with it. You know, have you improved the world by your presence in it? Because you're only here for a short time, and it's what you do with the information. How did you deal with the whole good and evil situation? Did you see evil as an opportunity for good? Because that's really what it is. It's an opportunity for evil too, but it's also an opportunity for good. You know, everything we see evil in the world is an opportunity for us to heal that problem. You know, there's a New Age myth that says, you know, where attention goes, or energy goes, where attention goes, energy flows. That you create all the bad stuff by acknowledging it. I believe that atrocity which you ignore persists. I think that if you put energy into that in the right way, you can heal the problem. I think we could heal all the problems that we face in a day if people simply paid attention. You know, and we don't. So that's a problem. That's us, folks. That's what all this is about. That's us. This is where we're going. I don't think they can hold us back. I think this awakening that we're seeing is necessary. I think everything that they're doing is necessary. Some people even say the Illuminati might be the good guys because they're causing humankind to wake up. Whatever, maybe they are. I don't think so, but maybe they are. But it's all opportunity for us, and I don't think we can be held back. All the negative stuff that's happening in the world is good, because if it wasn't happening, we wouldn't be remembering who we are. I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you right now if we didn't realise what all this was about, and we didn't realise that the evil's there. So the more they put it in our face, it gives us the opportunity to heal it. But we've got to see it as opportunity. All problems are opportunities. Every discovery you have about yourself is an opportunity. If you discover some flaw about yourself, it's an opportunity. Problem is we don't embrace the opportunities. We do bad things that we know are bad. The American Indians call this Wetiko. They claim there's like a white man virus, they call it. It's this psychic pathogen, this psychic parasite that causes white men to do things that they know are really bad for them, but they do them anyway. What for? We're destroying the planet, we know we are, but we do it anyway because we're enslaved to this economic model. So we've got to regain control of the economic model. That's what we've got to do. We do that, folks, and do it with the right attitude, change the world in a day. We really could create whatever reality we want to create. The economic model, folks, that's what happens. Who's heard of the global reset movement? Anyone heard of this? Insidious movement.
George Soros wants to reset the money system. Guys want to reset constitutions. They want to reset this, reset that. It's become a buzzword. I believe why it's become a buzzword is about 2.5 years ago, there was a group in England, this guy who apparently has issues, he's got problems, he might have done something bad to someone in the past. I don't know. I don't care. I don't really care what people have done in the past. I don't care what bad things people have done. It doesn't matter what people did. It matters what we do. Okay, we've done a lot of stuff that's brought us to this point. I mean, sure, I'm not saying that we need to give a free ticket to psychopaths by saying that. Sure, it matters what some people do, but ultimately it doesn't matter how we got here. It doesn't matter who they are, who we want to point the finger at. What matters is that we're here. What is the solution? That's what matters. So looking at this guy who apparently did some bad stuff, I don't know, but he had this idea to reset the tax system. He had this concept that if we, see the reason take England as an example, you pay 66.7% of everything you spend is tax. So 67 cents in every dollar is tax. 67 cents in every pound in England is tax, goes to the government. This happens because corporations have got loopholes, they don't pay any tax, basically. That's the way the world runs. Governments are always giving tax breaks to corporations, and so you're the ones who pay for it. If you were to replace that with a 1% tax, put a 1% transaction tax on everything, so that every dollar you spend, 1% of that goes to the Treasury. And anybody who sells you something, 1% of that sale goes to the Treasury. So 2% of every transaction goes to the Treasury. You make it at the till, or whenever the electronic transaction takes place, 1% tax on every transaction. This would force corporations to pay 1% tax on everything they do. That 1% corporate tax would replace just about everything you guys spend. We could have a 1% tax system right across the country, and the Treasury would actually have 3 times as much in the Treasury as they have now, and everyone would only be able to have to work 2 days a week. You'd live a better lifestyle than you got now, so there'd be 100% employment for those people who think employment's important. Great, we get to them as well. So that's a way to do it, and I think they saw this 1% tax idea as a total threat to their system, a total threat to the control grid. And so they started this whole global reset movement to vilify the word reset. Now we can't use the word reset either, folks. It's now controlled by the New World Order. You know, so like I said, we'll be speaking in sign language soon, sign language. So we've got to find a way of regaining control of the money system, folks. That's the head of the snake. Like I said, there's been a series of steps that have brought us to this point, and we need to find the sequence that's going to undo it. So what would happen if we tried to reset this tax system and put in this 1% tax? I'd think that all the people are going to go for it. If you suddenly show them that this can work, show them the figures of how it works, they'll go for it and they'll want to do it. You might even find that some of the lower level politicians agree with it as well, because they're going to look at it and go, oh, gee, more money in the coffers, I can get a pay rise. So it appeals to them as well. And will they do it even if we try to implement this? No, I don't think they will. But there's a system in England where you can get 10 people in each parish and they can call for a referendum. If you've got 10 people in each parish say we want a referendum, you put that to the government by law has to call a referendum, and then it goes public and everyone gets to judge or vote whether they want to have a referendum on this issue. And if you look at this and you present it in such a way, okay, 1% tax, so you're going to have more money in your wage, no more income tax, no more sales tax, no more corporate tax, or whatever it is, congestion tax, council tax. They've got so many taxes in England, it's ridiculous. Eliminate all these, replace it all with a 1% tax. You're only going to have to work 2 days a week to have a better lifestyle than you got now. Who's not going to vote for this? Going to create 100% employment. Who's not going to vote for it? Will the government do it? Probably not. But by that time, you've got everybody's attention to the fact that the government's corrupt and that this tax system's corrupt. Because that is the most important resource on the planet, is people's attention. It's finding out how to get their attention. All people care about is money. You try to tell people about chemtrails, fracking, all this stuff, fluoride, whatever, it's all very good and it's all very interesting, but they're too busy running on the treadmill to ever really have time to think about it. So what you've got to do is offer them something which is going to relieve that tension, make them think they're going to have more money in their pockets. Then they might pay attention. And when you've got their attention, you can start addressing some of these major issues. I think that's a good thing, it's a good start, and that could be a way we could do it, look into this 1% tax system. Because if they did do it, it would put the control of the financial system back into the hands of the people. These are one of the things I want to talk about in the Full Circle workshop as well, whether we can do this. But it's opening it all up for dialogue, folks. See, this has been vilified by people. They're saying, oh no, the word reset. Be scared of anything using the word reset. But you can't do that. You've got to look for the seeds of gold. Because I believe there's a lot of people out there that are promoting ideas and putting forth ideas because they see there's a problem and they're offering what they think may work. Now, some of these people may well be controlled opposition. They may well be the psychopaths in disguise, but there may still be a seed of gold in there. And if we use our discernment and we cherry pick and get all these seeds, I think we're going to find that we've got a way out of this. But we've got to have respectful dialogue, you know. We've got to be prepared to talk about all this stuff and bring it all together. You know, we just don't have respect because we don't respect ourselves. That's why I try to go through that conversation about that experience that I had and how it showed me the perfection of myself, because I think that's really important. You know, once you have that and you have that respect for yourself, respect for others comes by default, and that's what will help us find a way out of this. You know, because everyone can see the problem now, they just don't know what the solution is. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do in their own community to implement positive change. Well, I believe the first thing you've got to do is break down the barriers with your neighbours. You've got to do that. You've got to become friends with people, folks. Don't judge people by all these parameters that we're given. Become friends with them, you know. We do that, and that's the seed of gold. It really is. And look at the financial system. Try to get people to understand how it works. Even suggesting this 1% tax, if you can show them the figures, well, they're going to say, well, hang on, if this works and it frees us from debt slavery, why aren't people doing it? I suppose you can't use the word debt slavery because that'll freak them out. But, you know, if it frees us from debt and it puts more money in my pocket and allows me to run a little bit slower on this treadmill, then it's going to be a beneficial thing. And it's something that will get people's attention. I thought fracking would do it. I really thought fracking would unite the planet. I really would. The threat to our water system that we're seeing, I thought would unite everybody, but it hasn't really done it. So it's because of money. People are too paranoid about money. And even the people that are doing the fracking, I mean, it's a very, very high-paid job. So you can understand why they do it, because they believe there is security and financial gain. You know, there is a certain amount, but not a lot, because the whole money system's fiction anyway. So we know what it is, folks. We know what we've got. This is what we've got, and this is where we're heading. And we've got a lot of problems to deal with. You know, we're creating a world which isn't really that good, folks, but we have the ability to create one that is. You know, if we can embrace ourselves. This guy had it nailed, right? Civil disobedience is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that numbers of people all over the world obeyed the dictates of leaders of their governments and have gone to war, and millions have been killed because of disobedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obedient while the jails are full of petty thieves and while the great thieves are running the country. That is our problem. And it's true. But civil disobedience without respect won't work, folks, especially with all the stuff that we're facing, and there's a lot of it. You know, there really is a lot of it. We've been bombarded from all angles, and that's why people won't wake up, you know. They've got so much going on, so we've got to try to discuss things with them in terms that they understand and provide the keys for them to find a way out themselves. You know, there is so many methods that are used to control us, folks, and it just goes on and on, you know. The gentleman earlier on was talking about the electromagnetic grid as well. Like I was saying, you know, don't think they can't control you with your thoughts. Don't think they can't control you with electromagnetics, because it's an electrical universe. This is a computer. Everything you experience is electrical. You know, me touching this table, the fact that I can feel that, it's because of an electrical impulse that's being sent to my brain that tells me I'm touching the table. It's all electrical. All they have to do is find a way of intercepting the electrical flow in your body, and that's what they're doing. I believe the electromagnetic grid is one of the biggest things that keeps us enslaved, one of the things that keeps us locked down. You find people out in the country don't really have as much problem as people in the cities with this electromagnetic pollution that we're constantly swimming in. I think it's important that we pay attention to it. Fluoride is another one, as I said. I mean, fluoride is insidious. And even if you don't have fluoride in the water in your country, do you have fluoride in the water here? No? Is it in the food? Is it in your salt and all the other stuff? Yeah, see, they get it into you. Toothpaste. You find it's in salt, it's in toothpaste, it's in so many things. It's ridiculous. I know we're caring about our population. We're not putting it in the water. Yeah, right. It's in the bottled water. Yeah, again, of course it is, you know. So, antidepressants, oh, they're wonderful things, aren't they? I love them. Yeah, it's in everything. They're doing everything they can. Most Prozacs, like Prozac is actually a fluoride compound. You know, a lot of antidepressants are. And the food, of course. So is it fear porn, talking about all this sort of stuff? There's that big movement as well. Oh, fear porn, fear porn. Don't listen to the fear porn. It's not fear porn, folks. What's fear porn is calling it fear porn. Okay? Being aware of what's going on in the world is not fear porn. It's people who just, that's all they want. They just want to know about all the terrible stuff, but they're not interested in solutions. And that's what we've got from a lot of the so-called truth movement, New Age movement as well, alternate media, is you've got a lot of people who are presenting the fear to you, but they're not suggesting pathways to solutions. You know? And a lot of people you find that are in the alternate media have a vested interest in maintaining the fight. They're making damn good incomes out of this. It's become an industry. It's really become an industry. And people aren't interested in the paradigm shifting that much. Everyone's scared about change. You know, they want the world to change, but they don't want change. How does that work? You know, they don't want the system to change. They don't want the old world order, because that's what created this. We have to change it, but no, we don't want the new world order. Well, what about a new world without the order? You know, we don't need order. Consciousness isn't orderly, you know. Reality is random. Reality is random. It's spontaneous. It's diverse. We are all diverse, and we don't need to be homogenized into any type of system at all, and we don't need to create a new system to replace this one. This system could work if we applied integrity to it. And like I said, we acted according to moral parameters rather than legal parameters. If politicians are passing laws which cause you to deviate from your moral compass and you don't question those laws, who's to blame? Who's to blame? You should question the laws, but you should question them from the warrior spirit. Don't attack the person. The person's programmed. Don't attack them. Just question them. Ask the right questions in the right way. Be respectful. Always work towards what's good. Do what's good from your heart. Do what you're doing out of love, not out of hatred for the legislation. Do it out of love for the population. You know, and don't have a stake in the outcome. You know, that's the way I do it, and it works, folks. It really works, and I believe that's how we can change things. So we've got to bring the light and the dark together, folks. We've got to embrace the shadow, and we've got to face it. We really do. Embrace the warrior spirit. That's how we do it. We can create, whoa, am I going the right way? Yes, I am. Do that. Express the art of your life, folks, as loud as you can. From the hilltops, scream it to the world. Be who you are. Don't police your thoughts, and don't police your expression. Express yourself, you know. But work for something positive. Express yourself in a positive way, you know. Create a better world because you're in it. Now, what is your legacy that you leave behind? Is the world better because you were here? Or is it worse because you were here? Or did you just not participate? You know, because you have to participate. You really do. And there's no good asking the government for help, folks. The legal system, forget it. That's what they're doing to the legal system. So forget that one, okay? Embrace the divine masculine. Embrace the divinity in yourself, and you can face any form of chaos, and you can heal it. I think we're just about to getting close, okay? So that's it, folks. It's wisdom's dare. That's what life is, so dare to be wise in all of this. And I don't know how that picture gets in there. It just seems to get in there with every slideshow that I do, but I think it's true. I just think it's true. So, folks, my name is Max Igan. My website is thecrowhouse.com. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Are we done? Thank you, thank you. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Actually, before we go, if we've got a couple of minutes, I'd like to show a clip if we could at the end, but that depends on you guys.
Let's take the questions first. Okay, I see a hand up there.
Hi again. I'm just wondering, speaking of the embracing the divine masculine, you know, if psychopaths, primary psychopaths, allegedly being impervious or resistant to change, and we can change them.
No.
That brings us to the issue. We can love them, but the love will not affect a change in them. And since they have the power and we are dependent upon them relinquishing their power, right? How do you see that concretely taking place? Because apparently it's contingent upon on people waking up, right?
Well, yeah, to a degree. Like, about 3% of the world's born psychopathic, about 8% of the world are born they can't be programmed. I'm one of them. I imagine a lot of people here are part of that 8% as well. I don't think we need to wake up the entire world. We need to create a groundswell of something people can understand. Waking up to the fact that the money system's corrupt is a good start. I mean, that's something that people can identify with, and it's something that they can get their teeth into and focus on, and it will work because that's their main focus of their lives. But I don't think we need to wake up the entire world. I just think we have to get the 8% who are awake to get common purpose, or no, you know, to get some sort of a common purpose and common unity and common respect, and realise that we've all got a piece of the puzzle and we can change things. I believe if we act respectfully, we will change, but we won't heal the psychopaths. Don't even expect to. Psychopaths are psychopaths. They just do what they do. I don't even hate them for what they do because psychopaths are born without empathy. They don't think the way we do. It isn't that they purposely go out. I don't think people get up and go, well, I'm going to be really, really evil today. I don't think they do that. They just get up and do what they do. It's just sheep and chess pieces, and they can't understand why we get so upset about it. Benjamin Netanyahu cannot understand why the world is so upset about slaughtering all those children in Gaza. It's just collateral damage. Where's the problem, you know? They can't understand. They can't think the way we do. But if we change our moral compass and start questioning authority in the right way, in a respectful way, and enlightening our community in a respectful way by simply becoming friends with them, then the world will have to change with us, because psychopaths are very hidden. They like to stay hidden. They won't expose themselves too much. And if we can change our moral compass, the system will change around us and they will get discarded the way we do. I really believe that. I think that's the way out.
Hello, my name is Jeppe. First of all, thank you for a fantastic presentation. I think it was especially fantastic to me because I agreed pretty much about everything you said. So, well, but I was just wondering about one thing when you did a great efforts to tell about how it really isn't Jews in Israel controlling things. It's not the evil Jews, it's the Khazarians and stuff. But why didn't you ever mention Zionism?
Why didn't I ever mention Zionism?
Sure.
Oh, well, Zionism, I mean, yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned the Z word. Well, that's the thing. When I speak out against Israel, what I'm speaking out against is Zionism. But what is Zionism? I mean, it's a political movement, as people say. Ultimately, it's just a belief that Palestine should be Israel, really. I think Zionism is a mental disease that causes otherwise normal people to become psychopathic lunatics known as Zionists. That's clearly what Zionism is. When you see this whole Jewish system, it's created by these Zionists, absolutely. But I mean, I think it's very careful not to alienate the Jewish people. You know, there's three types of Jews. There's Jews who identify as Jews because of the faith, the religious doctrine they prescribe to. There's those who identify with Jews because of the cultural heritage that they believe they must have, and they're kind of tied to that via the Holocaust. And there's people who don't really follow the religion at all, don't really worry about the cultures that much, but again, they still respect the fact that they must be Jews because they're kind of tied to it by the Holocaust, because that's created that whole situation where you can't step out of that reality. So there's three different types of Jews. The ones who actually adhere to the religious doctrine, this is a totally supremacist, racist doctrine that's designed to basically wipe out everybody else. But I mean, most of the Jews don't adhere to that. It's an interesting thing in Israel. I mean, most of the Jews in Israel don't believe in God, but they believe God gave them Israel. Interesting, you know. But how are we going to change that? Well, we've got to change the Jewish people's mindset. So in my talks, I'm very careful not to alienate the Jewish people. I've got a Jewish guy staying in my house at the moment while I'm away. Admittedly, he's got long blonde dreadlocks and he's married to a South American shaman woman. He's not your regular Jew, but hey, he's a Jewish guy who identifies with the Jew because he feels he has an obligation to do so, again, because of the Holocaust. So you've got to understand these are incredibly programmed people, and there's a lot of Jew hatred out there, which is disguised as anti-Zionism. I think a lot of people just hate the Jews, and I don't hate them. I think Zionism is disgusting, and it's what's been responsible for what's going on in Israel, it's what's controlling the banking system and stuff. But we need the Jewish people to wake up to themselves, because like I said, the only people who are going to change the government of Israel is the Jewish people, the Israeli people. So it's very careful to word stuff in a way that can maybe shock them into a little bit of reality, but be kind and gentle with them at the same time. I'm just a kind, gentle person, you know, and I think we need them. And I don't hate them. I think they're programmed, I really do. Even Zionists, I think they're programmed. Well, I don't hate anybody. I really don't know how to hate. I have incredible anger for this system, but I try to channel it into something positive. But I don't do anything I do out of hatred, and I don't do anything I do out of having a stake for the outcome, you know? I mean, often we go through life with a fear of death, and ultimately it's a fear of death. All of our fears are fears of death. Fear of homelessness, I'll become homeless and I'll die. I'll starving and I'll die. I'll go to war and I'll die, or whatever, I'll die. I have no fear of death. That's the only part of life that's inevitable. So I can't see any point going through life missing out on it because I'm scared of what's coming after, you know. So I just have this attitude, and I think we need these people. Last thing I want to do is see the world accuse Israel of war crimes and then go to war with Israel and kill a whole bunch more innocent people. You know, I think the Jews are as big a victim in this as anybody else, and so are the Zionists. You know, it's this psychopathic mindset that's infected them, and even labelling it Zionism and all this sort of stuff. I mean, it comes from a higher thing. We've got this banking cartel, this crown corporation system that's created this octopus that it uses to control the world in various ways. We can put labels on things, we can recognise Zionism for what it is, but I don't think it's the root of the problem. I think the root of the problem is our mindset, our lack of heart, our loss of ourself, our belief that it's all about this self rather than this self. You know, so, I mean, yeah, Zionism's bad. I should have mentioned the Z word. Like when I do these talks, I go off on so many, I'll do a whole talk which will be about Zionism with the same slideshow. So it just depends on where I go and what tangents I go off in. But thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, it's a big problem, but it's not the problem. You know, the problem is us, really. Like I said, if we don't change this, you know, none of that's going to change. It doesn't matter who they are. You know, it doesn't matter how we got here. It matters that we're here. What do we do now? Let's get out of this point. Because once we get out of it, who they are will become self-explanatory.
Hello, Max. First of all, thank you for an excellent and extraordinary lecture. My name is Troels Kittel Nørballe, and on behalf of my good friend and myself, I would like to ask you a question about the nature of reality as perceived through DMT and the nature of reality as perceived through a meditative trance state, or like a naturally induced high.
Yeah, what I found in that meditation that I had was you've got 105 higher senses. I found that because they all came online. It was really interesting, I tell you. But we experience reality from a 5-sense perspective. The DMT experience that I had, you have DMT, it's like being shot out of a cannon. Suddenly reality warps and you go, oh my God, I'm not in Kansas anymore. You know, and what happens is you have 105 higher senses come online, but you've got no way to decode the information. It took you 5 years, 6 years to learn how to use these 5 senses. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that exists outside visible light. When you've got the correct amount of DMT flowing in your body, which we should have a lot more than we've got now, and we do have DMT active in our body, folks. DMT causes you to see in colour. If you didn't have DMT active in your body, you wouldn't be able to see in colour. There's a whole lot more to reality than what we're experiencing. When I had that DMT experience, all that came online, but I didn't know what to do with it. When I had the meditation experience, I connected it from myself and I could actually read it all. It was very, very different. But DMT, if we had the correct amount of DMT in our body that we should have, we would have our higher senses online and we would be able to see outside of visible light into the spirit realm. You notice cats and animals jump at things that you can't see because they can see into that realm. You notice animals will leave an area before there's an earthquake because they can read the energy field. They know it's all about to change. We call these instincts. But all they are is the energetic communication they're having with reality. There's a substance that exists in all things that are alive called tryptophan. Tryptophan is an antenna. And when you have active DMT in your body, you can access the tryptophan in everything else, and you can communicate with the plants, with the animals, energetically. Not in any language, but in energetic communication. And that's what we're missing out on. We should have instincts. You find a lot of tribal cultures will leave an area before a tsunami comes as well. The people in Indonesia, all the ancient shamans and tribal people that lived in Indonesia, they all went to the high ground 3 days before the tsunami came because they could read the energy field. So that's the difference. You know, DMT, the DMT experience will show you something, but it won't tell you how to use it or what it really is. You know, and what it is your higher senses coming online. Like I said, you have 105 higher senses. And it's when, it's symbolism as well. You look at the Illuminati symbolism and all the stuff they use, and even the peace sign, things like the peace sign. This is an interesting symbol. The peace sign is an ancient Druidic symbol called the death rune. Okay? It's a death rune. It was on all the Nazi gravestones of the SS officers. The death rune was the round circle with the broken cross upside down with the arms broken. This is called the death rune. Now people say, oh, I'm giving this, my intention for this is peace. But how do you know how you are interacting with that symbol, with senses you don't know you have, in realms that you can't perceive? Your intention may be peace, but what else is going on that you don't know? And I think it's interesting that this was presented to the world by Bertrand Russell. And since we've been giving our attention to the peace sign, we've had a massive amount of war on this planet. And the more war we have, the more we look at this peace sign and the more death we get. You know, so how are we interacting with these things, you know? That's what I discovered through this experience, is that it's all important, it's all relevant. But DMT will show you this reality is there. But I mean, I don't recommend it as anything that people should do as a pastime. It may teach you something. The difference with ayahuasca is that there's a bit of DMT in the ayahuasca brew, but there's actually a guide, the spirit guide of the plant. The carpi vine has a female spirit that lives in the plant, and she will guide you through this realm. And that may sound pretty out there, folks, but it's true. You've got this your higher senses will come online just enough for you to be able to see that there are other realms, and she will explain parts of yourself to you and parts of what you're experiencing to you. So it's a rather unique experience. But I don't think what I had was a DMT experience. It was like a cosmic download. It was like nothing I could even describe. And what I've explained to you was kind of the elevator version. It's like nothing I could explain. And I only did DMT to try to understand that. But when my higher senses came online, I just went, well, what happened to reality? I'll tell you the first thing that happened when I first smoked DMT, I was sitting out by myself in the grass looking at a tree, and all the grass leaned over towards me and looked at me. And the tree leaned over and looked at me and said, oh, he's awake. Come with us, we want to show you some stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good, you know. But I thought, wow, you know. And then when I came out of it, I'm looking up at the trees and I'm going, wow, great disguise, guys. And you're so patient. You're so patient with us, you know. But it's all there. It's all there for us to access. Everything's there, folks. And I recommend people do ayahuasca. I think it should be mandatory. Last year of high school, everyone should go do ayahuasca, you know. Do you have another question?
Yes, here's another question.
Hello, Max. My name is Victor. Thank you for a great lecture.
Where are we?
Right here.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if you can see me.
I can now.
You were talking about the 1% tax thing for corporations, and I just wanted to say that I really agree. I watched this graphic made by Denmark's radio, which is named Who Pays Tax in Denmark. And out of, I think, 871 billion Danish kroner in 2012, around just over a 20th, that's 5.6% was paid by major corporations like Maersk Line, Nordea, the pharmaceutical companies. Of course, all of the companies that is not there is, of course, Coca-Cola and Nestle, who don't pay tax. But the thing I wanted to say is that I was really surprised watching that graphic. It showed everything as thousands in cubes, and they moved around. But what it got down to is that, so it was around 49 billion kroner out of 871 billion kroner comes from the major corporation who stand behind the crises that we see in the world. The rest of it was bad. It's the 25% of anything that we buy, and the taxes on income for regular people. Oh yeah, so I just wanted to say that I totally agree with. So it wasn't really a question, but just I think we should apply it like here in Denmark. That was the thing.
Yeah. Well, it can be applied everywhere. That's the thing.
I'm inspired.
It's the thing. It can be applied everywhere, and like I don't think the governments will do it. They'll see it as too much of a threat. But it's something that everyone will go, hey, yeah. And that's what we need is attention. Attention is the most valuable resource on the planet. And the only thing people can really care about is money. So let's address that. Let's look at the tax system, because the tax system is the system of slavery in itself. So if we can address that, even if they don't implement it, then we've got their attention, and we've just proven to you how corrupt they all are because they wouldn't implement this solution, which would cancel national debt straight away and put everybody in a state of abundance. Why won't they do it? That's the question. So we've got to get people's attention. That's saying money is what they care about. So money will get their attention. Like I said, there's a golden seed in all of these things, and the most valuable resource is attention. So that's what we've got to do, find ways of getting people's attention. So money's the best thing to do it with, you know. I'm glad that you agree with that too, but I recommend people go and look at this. It's called The Reset. TheReset.org is the website. And don't associate it with the global reset movement. It's not. It's something completely different. So have a look at it, you know. So that about it? We're done? Can I show a quick video clip? Have we got time? It's 8 minutes. Are we into dinner time? This is actually, this is a preview of the, my computer's, I can't. My computer's not plugged in. It's not my computer. So maybe during a break tomorrow, I'm going to be here tomorrow, maybe after the first speaker, for those who want to come in, I'll come in and show you a preview from my new film.
Yes, so I want to thank you for this powerful speech and also for being the voice of the people who are there deliberately being muted.
Well,
and on
you,
behalf of everybody, I want to give you a hug.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. This is what I love about this job, folks. I get to hug so many beautiful women.